All right, welcome everyone. We are now in the final segment of this very, very long segment on data and AI and just building. This has been one of the most best experiments of my life. I've actually been loving every minute of what we've been doing here. Today we have two very special guests, right? We have Maria and Jocko. Both y'all are in the Netherlands, right? That's like right.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. We had earlier. We had another guy from the
Even
Netherlands.
very close to each other as well. We
Oh,
live
Yeah,
like in the
I
middle of
actually
nowhere.
almost drove past your house this morning, Maria. Very close. I drove through Dorst, which is I
dude,
guess
that's
pretty close too.
amazing. I'm so
Yeah.
happy
It's like
about
I
that.
think we're 15 minutes away
Yeah,
from each
something
other,
about
I think.
around 15 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'll give an intro of like what I know about y'all, and
Sure.
then I want you to like probably add more color. So Maria's a good friend of mine. Maria likes Lego. Like Lego is a big part of her vibe. She also is big in MLOps. She has a thing called Marvelous MLOps. It's like an awesome newsletter. She also teaches some really great MLOps courses on Maven. And are you an MLOps tech lead right now, Maria? Is that right? Or like,
Yeah, I
like
think it's pretty
yeah.
correct. Yeah, my role is complicated. So I'm a large organization and I'm in central part of the organization. So I'm kind of technically leading a team, but I'm more into the governance piece these days, more like AI advisory. It's kind of switching back to that, to defining MLOps standards for the whole organization, and my cat joined.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
cat.
It's amazing. Cat is very important.
Very important, yeah. Well, he was all the time playing just there, and when the stream started, he decided to show himself up. So
Mine
that's
actually
nice.
left just before the stream,
Oh
unfortunately.
no, she's
like,
shy.
he's like, I'm not meant for the
No,
fame,
not
right?
going on to Zach
Yeah.
Wilson. No.
No, but to defining my role. So I think last 2 years it was more into MLOps tech lead. So I was actually leading the team, and now I'm going away from that again into the standards and more global role, which is also a lot of fun.
Nice. That's exciting. It's exciting. I always like that new role smell, right? I mean, yeah. Then next person here, we got Jocko. Jocko is like, I don't know, like senior staff data engineer at IKEA. Like, and that's
Correct.
amazing. And so IKEA has an office in the Netherlands, or like, are you
Exactly.
remote? They do?
Yeah, and
Interesting.
so they do have an office in the Netherlands, and actually a fun fact that not many people know. So IKEA is a franchise concept, right? So when you walk into an IKEA store, you're actually walking into a franchise of the IKEA brand. And so in the franchise concept, you also have a franchisor, which is the umbrella over all of the franchisees. And the franchisor is called IKEA. And what not many people know is that the headquarters is actually not in Sweden, but in the Netherlands, in Delft. So I'm based in Delft, but I work mostly remote.
Dude, you just explained everything, because honestly, like, you've been
It's
interacting.
not something many people know.
Yeah, like you've been interacting with my content on the last like couple years, and like I totally thought you lived in Sweden.
No, I'm 100% Dutch. 100%
Yeah, and then when I
Dutch.
saw that you were Dutch and you're in the Netherlands, and then I was like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm also not a full-time employee of IKEA, so I'm actually a freelancer, a contractor. So IKEA hires me. So I'm not in any way a full-time equivalent employee, but I'm an external employee. But yeah, I do work 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
for IKEA.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, dude. Like, do you like working there? Is it a vibe? Like,
it is a super vibe. The company is super warm. There's a lot of very nice people working at IKEA. I think. I mean, as a contractor, I've worked for a lot of companies, and I must say, and sorry to all of my previous clients and companies, but IKEA has been the most fun thus far. By far, actually, it's a really fun company. Actually, I would advise everyone to pursue a career at IKEA. It's a fantastic company.
So
you go to Swedish bowls for lunch, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's such a bummer actually, because we have a coworker restaurant, right, where all of the IKEA employees get to eat, and they don't have the Swedish meatballs. So if you would
Oh,
like Swedish
no.
meatballs as a IKEA coworker, you need to go into the customer restaurant,
dude,
and pay more, obviously, because the coworker restaurant's much cheaper.
dude, that sounds
That's
like,
fair.
I mean, that sounds like going into Amazon and having to like go to a separate store to get a banana. Like that sounds
Right.
like, I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds a little bit like blasphemy, but I get it. I get it. That meatball is a little more
Yeah.
expensive than banana, but like at the same time, like,
Yeah.
dude.
So I find myself in the customer restaurant more often than in the coworker restaurant, actually.
That's great.
But
I
yeah.
mean, how did you like land that sweet gig at IKEA? That sounds like a freaking like a pretty awesome role. Like,
Yeah, it is an awesome role. So I've been a contractor for almost 4 years now, and I've always done projects in mostly finance, so banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and IKEA is actually my first retail experience. And yeah, basically they were looking for someone that was really good at Databricks to take over a project from a large consulting company. And yeah, there were a couple of people applying for the role, and I got it. That's how it went, really.
dude, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, that's one of the things that's very interesting about how, like, you know, I've had an interesting. I think this is one of the things that like that is I think something we all share. Maria, do you teach on Databricks?
Yeah, I'm teaching.
Okay, so that's something that we
Databricks.
all share. We all teach on
Right.
Databricks at least.
We
So
all
that's
teach.
very interesting. It's very interesting, and I think like I don't know, it's been a very interesting thing for me as like because I taught my first cohort on Databricks in January, and I was like, all right, we'll see how we'll see how it rolls. We'll see what happens, right? And like it was interesting. It's very interesting, and like I'm excited. I'm finally moving because you know I built everything in my startup on Tabular. Like, and so I'm like, okay. And now, and I'm excited. We're finally moving off of Tabular, like in the next week, and then it will be all on Databricks, and then we will just not Tabular will just go bye bye. We won't need Tabular
Oh
anymore.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and
That's
we'll have
fantastic.
one less dependency right in my freaking tree, which will be cool. Like, but yeah, it's been very interesting. It's like because like I've gone like full circle with it, right? Where I was like initially I was like, no, definitely not teaming with Databricks. But then when they were like, okay, they're gonna buy Tabular, I'm like, well, now what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Like stand up my own new iceberg thing? There's like a lot like
During
so,
the Snowflake Summit, actually, this news came out, which was even it was
yeah,
fantastic.
right,
You know,
dude, it was
It was great
shocking.
timing.
Yeah, right.
great timing.
But it's
Yeah.
always this kind of timing. If you,
Pretty
you know,
intentional,
follow the
I
trend.
most likely.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's great.
It is the summit again in 2 weeks, so I'm looking forward to the to all of the things they come with this year.
Are you gonna be in San Francisco?
I will be there.
Maria is. I
Let's
unfortunately
go.
won't
Let's
be.
go. I'll be
Yeah.
there, but I live here, so I mean,
I will be
Yeah,
in
you live
Mexico,
there.
so it's not that I will be at home. So I will be close, but unfortunately won't be flying over.
yeah,
We'll be
yeah.
enjoying a family vacation.
It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. So, like, I think another thing that I'm curious about for you two is like, how do y'all become a Databricks MVP? Because that's something that y'all both share, right? Aren't you like the only Databricks MVPs in the Netherlands or something like that, or like it's
We
like
have
We
three
were.
people actually.
We were as of I think last month, where we got a third one. Great guy, worked with him at a previous client. His name is
Yeah.
Casper. So we're three in the Netherlands at the moment.
Yeah,
nice.
we are
Nice.
writing article together. Casper is awesome. Yeah, you need to get him on the next stream, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like,
But,
I mean,
to answer
Yeah.
the question, Zach, basically it's a community program. So you get nominated by someone who is already an MVP or working at Databricks, and you basically need to contribute to the community either via the official community forums or via LinkedIn or via blog posts and things like that, and then have someone nominate you from within the MVP program, and then you basically that's when you become an MVP.
dude, like I have a gripe, a small gripe about this program a little bit. So like in January, right? I taught 400 students Databricks, right? With my own material that I made, but it's paid. And they were like, that does not count because it's not public
No.
material. And I'm like,
They want you to do it like for free, right? Then they can give you their support.
yeah, it's fair. It's fair, but I have that's my one small gripe. All right, because I am contributing to the Databricks brand. All right, but like
Yeah,
it's
in a
interesting.
big way for
Yeah,
sure.
it's
Like amount of
interesting.
people you teach is crazy.
Yeah, just like getting them all in. Right. It's freaking nuts. I mean, it's exciting times, you know. Like I'm like one of the things that I've found kind of crazy is like I'm gonna be shifting my gears a little bit in like where my brand is going and what my business is doing. So I spent last December, right? I spent $25,000 on a new domain, which was probably not the best
Oh
decision,
wow.
but I do have it. I have AI expert, right? I have that domain, and I have not shifted to it yet because I've been like, you know, data expert has like a lot of SEO, and it's like, I mean, I have a lot of blog posts, a lot of links, a lot of backlinks. It's gonna be a long journey, but like, you know, I'm gonna be teaching AI boot camp, like an LLM AI boot camp in June, and like, because I know
That's
that's
cool.
like it's gonna be might as well freaking do more like other things, right? Because I need more like random content in my library of content. Because it's like I realized something for myself. One of the things that I don't like doing with cohorts, right, is if it's a cohort of content that I've already taught, then I don't want to do it anymore. It's like
We also the same.
yeah, it feels even though like I know students will benefit, even though I know I'll get a lot of outcomes and I know it will be less stressful. It's like literally in every way, it's like kind of better. It's like more profitable. It's probably smoother, and students will be successful and all that stuff. But I'm like, no, because I'm like, if it's not adding to the content library, if it's not like net new content, it's like I don't have the same motivation to do it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, but then I'm like, wow, that just puts a lot of pressure on making new content though as well, you know, because it's like
Yeah.
you just keep making more and more boot camps, right? But it's freaking
We
nuts.
keep changing as well. I mean, it's not probably like that big changes that we do from cohort to cohort, but we know like what things didn't land well, what could be done better, and we improve on this, we iterate on that. We add new modules on testing, like really extensive testing, like
Nice.
really going deep into CI/CD pipelines and all these things. Like every time it gets a bit better. And the next cohort, we are going to migrate to a new runtime, which is quite a big change because it's just not just runtime, but also all the libraries. And yeah, they change a lot as well. They are, most of them are beta. So
it's all about iterating, and things change so quickly that, you know, things get better with iteration, really.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Like I feel like finally, like again, my cohort, my data engineering cohort launches on Monday, and and I feel like I will finally teach Iceberg perfectly, because I taught Iceberg in January and I taught Iceberg a month ago, and then this will be the third time I've taught Iceberg, and it's gonna be
You'll get it right this time.
I will get it right this time. The third time's the charm. It's not like Spark. It was so crazy in Spark. Like it took me 5 cohorts to get the Spark content to where I like actually was like, okay, I like this content. Like it's like it was very interesting how like I just felt like I was cursed. I was like there was no way I was like teaching Spark correctly. Though I was like every single time something went wrong, something bad happened. Like I mean, it's like it's a very interesting thing, right? I mean,
but that's where a platform like Databricks really shines, right? Because you don't need everyone to like install all of the dependencies and libraries, and you know, it runs on my machine, and you know, you don't get that discussion as much using Databricks, I guess.
Yeah, but you just have to pay so much more. I mean, okay, hear me out. Here's a perspective for you. Just I think that will be interesting. So I did in May of last year, I did all the Spark content on Glue. And then in January of this year, I did all the Spark content on Databricks, right? And so when I did all on Glue, right, and each cohort was like about 400 students. And so when I did it all on Glue, it was like $900 of a AWS bill. And then when I did it all on Databricks, the problem with Databricks, and this is where like I guess like I need to it seems like it's a lot easier to lock AWS down than it is to lock Databricks down, like in terms of like what students can do. And like, and the thing was, so it was $10,000 right?
Wow.
Versus
wow.
$900, right? For me to teach on
Mm.
Databricks versus teaching on Glue. And I'm like, oh, that's a little
I know,
high.
but
It's a little high,
there are
right? I
some
mean, like,
guardrails you can put into place, or if you let everyone use the same cluster, I guess. I mean, I guess the
Cluster
problem is that everyone,
policies.
yeah,
right? If you have some cluster policies in place where not everyone is able to like create their own cluster, I think that's where the money really
yeah,
explodes. And
And
yeah.
alerts on system tables and budgeting, so that you actually see what is going on and can act on it. Yeah, we
1,000%. I mean, that was, I
yeah.
mean, and I knew, I mean, I actually thought it was going to be higher. Like, I thought it was going to be 20K. I budgeted 20K for it because
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Because I also was like, students, you can use Databricks for your capstone projects. And I'm like, okay, do whatever you like, whatever that means that you want to use, right? Besides spinning up clusters. And then I was like, there's definitely, and then I was like, okay, I learned that like there's probably another way to do this that will be better. Like that will be an interesting kind of
Yeah.
cost management structure, because it's like what I want to do, what I really hope for that I can't do right now with Databricks, because at least if this is the cost profile, is because I have like I have two products, right? I have a $3,000 product, which I'm like, okay, fine. I can pay the Databricks bill for that. But then I also have a $200 product. And it's like, it's for the $200 product. I'm like, I don't know if I want to give the $200 product access to Databricks, because it's like there's a side of it where it's like if it's gonna be the incremental cost there might like that student might easily blow through that like easily, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
and so like there's a like it's trying to find the right balance there of like I bet there's a way to do it with the right cost controls though, where like you can actually get it to a point where like some students might do that, but most won't, so it will still be profitable, right? But who knows?
Yeah,
Like,
but this is something we hear very often, right? People say Databricks is expensive, but the word expensive is super subjective. I mean, compared to what? Like, and what do you get out of it, right?
yeah,
I mean, I know, for example, you Zach, I think you've hired like a couple of coaches, right?
yeah,
People say coaches are pricey as well, but
yeah.
it's what you get out of it. I mean, if you spend 10K on a Databricks cohort, but you have 400 students that get up and
Yep.
running very quickly, get to
Mhm.
do their stuff, are much more productive, then I guess maybe 10K isn't as bad as everyone having
Well,
to
and well,
configure
there's
everything in Glue and
yeah, 100%. And like I think it's like yeah, with like there's this whole idea of like I know it's interesting. It's interesting because like I get into these big arguments with Databricks about this exact topic, because in their mind they're like, Zach, like it's actually not $10,000 because you make more sales with Databricks, and I'm like, actually I've done market research on that, and that's actually not correct. Right. And it's like because when I've done interesting polls, and like when I did a poll like a month ago where I was like, what do you guys want me to teach? Want me to teach open source? Want me to teach Airflow? It was Airflow, Glue, like because I had to teach something with Spark. Airflow, Glue, Kafka, right? That was like the one option. And the other option was the Databricks stack. And it was close, but it was 60-40 for open source. 60-40 for
Oh
open
wow.
source.
right.
Right. And so it was
But then when you do Airflow, you have everyone set up Docker, right? But that takes a lot of time, right? And
I actually use Astronomer. Astronomer is what I use.
right, okay.
Astronomer, and
You
like
use Astronomer to manage the
yeah,
Airflow.
Astronomer
Yeah,
does all of it, but they still have to
cool.
use Docker though, because it's like to do the local dev, right? And that's one of the things that's crazy about Databricks as a platform. I think really is that like I mean honestly like you could literally do like Spark dev from the phone on Databricks, right? Because it's all like there's no installation. It's just like log in, right? And then you could really like you might have to like change the view on the phone to like have it be the desktop view, but you
Yeah,
could do it. You could definitely
yeah, it
like
works.
run a
Yeah, it
job
works.
from the phone, right? It's like
Yeah.
freaking it's kind of
Oh,
nuts.
I'm doing every morning. I wake up and check my pipeline runs from my phone. Actually, it works really well. Yeah.
I did that too. Yeah. It's very convenient. But well, I'm not a fan though of using notebooks for development, and that's something that I think really hurts the industry. That's my really hard opinion, because in ML specifically, you have to package your code, because if you don't do that, well, the code gonna be ugly and much harder, to understand and also to work with in the future. It's just a technical debt that you build up. And developing not in a notebook in Databricks is still pretty hard. So, That's just pain.
This is the most controversial topic I think on LinkedIn is
I know.
notebook versus Python packages and and whatnot.
Yeah, Python packages is the way to go. Okay, personally, okay. So one of the things I don't like about Notebook, just Notebook in general, is that like so the company that like pioneered the whole idea of like let's just schedule the Notebook. That was Netflix. Netflix pioneered that when I was there, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is awful. This is awful. This is like it's like just because you can schedule a notebook doesn't mean that you should. Like it's like I don't know, like maybe there's this thing called unit tests and integration tests that your pipelines should have to pass in order to be deployed, not just randomly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not just randomly updated like via a notebook, right? And it's like freaking there's that is like I guess that is the thing where I'm like in Databricks and all this stuff where it's like, oh yeah, dude, just deploy the notebook, and it's like no, like I don't know that it feels very like there's like a visceral like anxiety I have about doing that, even though like I know for most use cases it's probably fine, but it's like a big no in my brain as an engineer. It's freaking it's interesting.
Well, it's that part, right? You need to be or you need to know some sort of software engineering best practices in order to be building software engineering packages. And a lot of people that have become a data engineer, they have a BI background, right? They come from SQL Server, they come from, and they don't have all that software engineering knowledge, and thus they go into notebooks because that's where they can build store procedure type logic.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hit the ground running really quickly, but if you want to professionalize your solution, you definitely need to look into packaging your code and testing it, and linting it and all those types of things. I agree, but I mean, not a lot of companies are there yet. I've worked for some very serious companies in the past, banks, for example, that did everything in notebooks. And even though I was preaching the same things you guys are, like you need to do it in Python packages and things like that, the people working in the bank, they just weren't ready for that. They didn't have the software engineering background, so I could preach all I wanted, but just couldn't get it off the ground. So it's a difficult topic still in a lot of companies.
But I think there is a lot can be done. People that come from data science background, the way how data science is taught in universities, no one is talking about any of this. They still use notebooks there, and that's a problem, right? Because people learn that at university, then they get their first jobs, and that's what they think is a normal thing to do. And if also within the company it's also bad practice because people just don't know anything better, then you end up having a lot of junior people not being exposed to these best practices at all. And that's one of the things that I'm I guess trying to change with what I'm trying to teach.
You're doing God's work, all right?
And I gotta say, if talking from experience, because I've worked with a lot of MLOps engineers, and those types of people are usually much better in software engineering best practices than most data engineers are. So I think there's a lot to learn. I mean,
we felt so much pain.
Yeah, but it's true. I remember this. I did this bringing Python to production course somewhere on Udemy. I think his name is the teacher's name is Eric. Forgot his last name.
Is from Eric
Riddock.
Eric Riddock. That's the guy.
Yeah, he's from my home state. He's from Utah.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and I learned so much from that course because he's an MLOps engineer. But even though that he is an MLOps engineer, I learned so much in how to productionalize my Python code, and I also try to preach that in all of the projects that I do. But not everyone is as far yet, unfortunately. But yeah, I do try.
And I think also another thing, people think, oh yeah, just take a notebook. It's so easy, and it's temporary.
But that's it, right? It's easy. People take the easy way, the easy route.
Yeah, but why? Like I'm doing yoga, and my yoga I'm learning handstand. That's why it's really hard thing to do. But my yoga teacher says you need to, it feels weird, but that's the right way. Just do it the right way, And when you do it all the time the right way, it will become hard to make it the wrong way. And that's how you learn. And that's, I think, what the mentality should be also of data professionals. It may feel weird, it may feel hard, but if you just get used to it, that's how you keep doing it. And it's going to be okay.
That's basically what I live by. Just choose the hardest thing and
Just
I
do
love
it.
burpees. Burpees are great. Burpees mess me up every time. Like it's like do like 20 burpees and then you're humbled. You know, it's great. Like
Yeah, no, that's true.
no, I
Yeah.
mean, so okay, what do you think of it? Okay, MLOps, that's definitely a big space that people are talking a lot about. And so obviously, so you're saying we should probably not be doing like scheduling notebooks as much, right? That's probably a big space to like not be doing that, right? It's like I guess it's like
Yeah.
the thing that like I guess the fundamental thing for me there is like I'm like, where's the version, dude? Like don't we use Git? Don't we use Git? Like, don't we like, I don't know, don't we have like a commit somewhere? And like, I think that's like one of the other things like notebook things that is like tricky for me, right? But I
But
guess
also, when you look through your commits, through
Yeah.
your notebook commits, you can hardly make any sense out of it, right? It's just, it's
Mhm.
it looks ugly.
Yeah, looks super ugly.
Versioning notebooks is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends what kind of notebooks. If it's just .py file in Databricks,
Yeah, it
then
depends on the
it's
extension.
better.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so what other best practices are there besides, like versioning your code and not using notebooks, Maria? Like what other like things would you
Yeah.
say that people should be doing?
Well, I think you need to version everything that you can pretty much. That for any deployment of machine learning model, you need to know what code it came from, what data it came from, the exact version of it, and also how the artifact for your model was created. So you need to, pinpoint all these three things and being able to roll back to any version, any combination of these three things at any point of time. And to do that, you need to tag things properly. You need to propagate these tags through the whole process that you're doing. And that's something that most people don't do. And if something goes wrong, it's usually very, very hard to pinpoint where
You're
and why
speaking
it
Git
went
tags
wrong.
now, right?
Not just Git tags.
Not necessarily.
Of
Okay.
course. Now also you need
But also your
obviously you need to
package
have Git
version
commit
inside
hash.
your.
You need to have package versions. You need to have runtime versions, your model version, and also the data version. Like that was a table with that with a timestamp or version of the table, and that was exactly used for training your model. And you need to know all these things at any point of time.
Yeah.
And only then you can roll back easily.
Yeah.
And
that's where Delta Lake is really helpful as well.
Yeah.
It can be expensive though. So that
depends how much version you
go
keep.
back. Yeah, exactly, indeed. But that's just one thing, because even if all of that you keep track of that, it can be that your model is not performing very well because data distributions have changed, and that's something that very few companies really pay attention to. The monitoring of ML models is just not done properly by most of the companies, and the tools that are out there don't do that properly either. Like you have data skew, you can have some alerts on that there is something wrong with the data, but it doesn't really say anything. Schema drift, it doesn't really say anything about your performance of your model. It can be that there is a drift in the feature, but nothing has changed in the model per se. So you really need to monitor the estimated model performance, and there are tools for that, but that's not what most companies do, unfortunately. It's more like post factum, they know that something went wrong, but then it's already too late. So yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm doing MLOps for so long, and it doesn't feel like it gets much better overall. So I guess we're just still in the beginning of this.
But is that because data engineers have not put enough guardrails like upstream for your models to behave consistently, or yeah?
Not per se. I mean, the data distribution could just have changed, and from data engineering point of view, nothing is going wrong. I mean, the data is just fine, but the world has changed, right? And that's not the fault of anyone. The world is just changing. So you need to adapt for that. You need to probably retrain your model, completely review how what the process is for doing that. And but yeah, having this kind of alerts in place, that's at least what you could do. And another thing, of course, ML models fail because of bad data quality most often. And the reason is because indeed data engineers care about certain metrics and ML engineers care about other metrics. And it's very hard to define responsibilities, whose responsibility is that if that feature has changed in a certain way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
tricky.
garbage in, garbage out, obviously. But as a data engineer, for everything to go well downstream in ML models and things like that, I mean, there's plenty of things you can implement. Data quality checks, great expectations. Zach, I know you've been speaking about what was the pattern from Netflix: write, audit,
Right,
publish.
audit, publish.
Like those types of patterns are really helpful in making sure everything stays a little more consistent downstream for your model.
Definitely. The
And I
question
think
is,
it
what are you
is just
checking
not.
for?
Yeah, but it's a really underappreciated thing that is. I mean, it's not being done as much still if by data engineers, and to be honest, they should. But
I agree.
what most data engineers care about is how much data can I move and how efficient can I do it, right? Those are the metrics you were speaking about, where I really think they should be looking more into data quality and speaking with the business, right? What are the outliers? What columns can be nullable? Those types of things, because that is important for downstream models, and that is just not being done as much from what I've seen.
Definitely.
And it has impact not just on ML models, but also on dashboards or on chatbots or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed that, like, even at companies that, like, consider, like, I don't know, quote unquote, like good data practices. Like, Airbnb is kind of heralded as one of the best data companies in terms of like what they're actually doing. But there was definitely, like, that was one of the things I noticed, that like a lot of the pricing tables at Airbnb, like, it was just like, we publish the master data and that gets directly put into the smart pricing model. And it was just like, there was like no step in between. It was just like, there's like no checks. It's just like, okay. And it's just like, it's definitely like, it's one of those things where, like, it catches so much. And some of that stuff, Maria, you actually can catch with write, audit, publish. Like, so like, what you're talking about, like mixed shift, right? Mixed shift in like where the dimensions are different, right? Where it's like, you have like, I remember at Facebook, that was a big thing that happened one time, where they had a data quality check fail because Ethiopia, like the government of Ethiopia shut off the internet. So they were just they had no active users in Ethiopia when it used to be like 90 million, right? And it was like, because they just shut off the entire internet. Or like another thing that can happen is like,
that will mess with your ML models.
yeah, like, and immigration flows can happen, right? Where like, where more people are like currently like leaving the US than entering the US, which can cause like a different distribution of like what type of people are currently in the country, and which can cause definitely shift in machine learning behavior, where like some of that stuff like is expected. There's probably like some sort of tolerance. So like, okay, if it shifts 1 or 2%, like, okay, it's probably gonna be fine. But if it shifts 10%, that might be too much, right? And that's I mean, some of those things I think you can catch, but like that, like, so that you don't like have like it too crazy. But some of it is also like, it's not a quality error. It's just reality, right? It's just like, but it's anomalous reality though. And I think that's where it is important to have that be not just caught in the data layer, or not just caught in the machine learning and inference layers or training layers, but also like in the master layer, like in that, because it's like, if there's any other place where this data is being used, that should be like also like, like Ethiopia is shutting off the internet. Yeah, that should actually break the pipeline, because that's just like
that's something you need to catch.
Right, definitely.
Yeah. Something else I think what is really important, and I think Databricks is doing a really good job here with Unity Catalog is data lineage, right? Because me as a data engineer, if I am about to change a schema, I know what the impact will be downstream, because I know what teams or what people are using the columns because of data lineage built inside Unity Catalog. So what I'm also seeing is people are building ML or AI solutions outside of, for example, Databricks, which breaks lineage. So if something upstream changes, ML will not know it if you don't have certain governance structures in place, which I think is super important. Also in Europe, it's becoming more and more important, because we what they say, right? What is it? America innovates, Europe regulates, or something like that. There's this AI Act in Europe where they have a lot of different rules that they need to, that AI and ML models need to adhere to. But one of them is we need to know what data has gone into the models. And that is where data lineage is such a game changer, really, because if you don't know what data and what columns are being used in your ML models as a data engineer, that's definitely something you can really work on and help everything downstream.
No, I think the idea is great, but I think that's my least favorite part on Databricks. Even though it is supposed to work that way, it doesn't actually show the lineage for machine learning models. Why? Because you're not using PySpark to train them. You need to convert PySpark to Pandas.
You need to use PySpark to build
Polars.
the lineage. Yeah.
Exactly. So then you have no lineage, zero lineage for your machine learning models unless you do PySpark, ML, lib, or
So
similar.
the lineage, like the actual the lineage metadata is written in Spark. It's like okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's written in Spark, but if you, for example, use Polars or whatever, then no lineage is being generated. So when you're feature engineering and you don't use PySpark and you don't create data frames, there's no lineage. So that's a bit of an annoying point, but I think Databricks is aware of this, and they might as well change it in the near future.
That's similar. I mean, that's similar with Iceberg, though. Iceberg has the same problem where it's like everything that when you're writing and reading with Iceberg, it's like you can do it with other tech, right? Trino or like Python or whatever other tech, but like the only one that where it works seamlessly is Spark. It's the only one that is actually still like very good, right? So yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're improving that for sure. Like bring your own lineage is coming somewhere end of the year, we hope. Which means that, well, it's essentially if a PySpark command executed, Databricks kind of runs something on top of that to, calculate the lineage. And if that API is exposed and can be used by a user itself, then we can, embed our own lineage. But for machine learning, we do other type of lineage. So as I was explaining before, if you have a machine learning model experiment, you can tag it with a bunch of things. Like you can also tag what table it came from and what version of the table, which means you kind of have certain version of lineage yourself, and you have the way of controlling it as well. But indeed, data engineers wouldn't be aware of that. That's the downside.
Yeah, no, exactly. So something very important, and this is a bit bridging the gap here, is so question to you maybe, Maria, is how well or how often do you sit with the people, with the data engineers, right? Because I think if you're all in silos, a lot is going wrong, right? You need to collaborate in some sort of way.
I think it depends on the team. So for us, it's pretty isolated still. So we have a team that prepares data for us, and that's the data that we use for machine learning models. Well, we are aware of each other's existence, and they know we use the data, so they try to communicate as much. Well,
this is how it often goes. I still see this everywhere.
Yeah. It is everywhere like that. Indeed.
But then, do they do some sort of feature engineering for you, or do you guys do the feature engineering?
No, we do feature engineering for our models. Yeah. So that actually kind of
because that's the common ground, the feature engineering. I mean, that's something you can collaborate on with data engineers.
I know. It also depends on what kind of responsibilities teams have, right? You can't just push responsibilities on team. That's also not really on you. And then it goes really into organizational structures and things like that, and it gets really complicated. I think in the ideal scenario, in the ideal world, each of the team must be a product team that is responsible for the product end to end. And I know in big organizations, it can get really blurry. So I guess to a certain extent, data ingestions are still probably done by a central team. But once that is done, like all the data engineering for the product itself should be happening within self-consistent team. And that's what kind of a movement that I see happening across different companies, that teams have ML engineers, data scientists, data engineers, and also even data scientists being on call if something is happening and actually knowing a bit of more ML engineering, data engineering as well. And knowing like the whole product. I think that's actually really great that we are going towards it, and understanding of it is kind of getting getting there as well.
Yeah. I think it's very strange that there are so many silos still between these teams, because looking at dashboards, or give you an example from IKEA, we're working with this team that is building agentic frameworks on top of our Databricks platform, and we have a chat with them. We sit with them almost daily, and we have calls together, and I mean, that is how you really collaborate. It's not that we give them the data and that's where it ends for us. No, it's much more of a collaboration that I think will bridge the gap between all of these different expertises.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
for sure.
really see this shift happening more and more now, which is, I think, a really good thing.
Yeah.
We are also kind of getting there. So we are in the migration process. We are kind of finishing it for our product, which is a big achievement. It was a lot of work, especially like figuring out how different pieces of puzzle that we previously didn't own, have to be put back in the way that nothing breaks. It was really challenging to figure that out without any documentation and accesses to some systems either. But we are kind of going to a state that we have a repository that is in shared ownership of machine learning and data engineering teams. And at least we have all the visibility of what data engineering is doing. They have to still create pull requests. We can see what pull requests were created, the change log, what has changed. Because previously it was in different silos as well. Like
That's fantastic.
Were on GitHub, they were on Azure DevOps. We didn't even have access to their repos.
Classic.
And no idea what is happening there. Some Azure Data Factory pipelines,
That's wild.
Stuff.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, I think that's one of the things that for me that's been rough, I guess, is that my last 7 years was all just at companies that were doing stuff mostly the right way. And I forget that there's a lot of other things going on. I'm curious what you guys are thinking about in another, there's a whole other kind of phenomena happening right now. It was big at the Confluent conference I was at. They're talking all about shift left. This whole shift left model of having quality being closer to the source, having the model be closer to the source, because you don't need to do the whole loop anymore, right? Because it's you have this pre-trained model and all it needs is context now. It doesn't need to train, right? It doesn't need to train anymore. It's it just needs the context of the current whatever data that's being ingested. So in that,
I think I'm getting a newsletter. What is the company called? Gable, I think. Is that the company?
Gable, Gable.
I think it is a really great shift that is happening on that side. 100%. I mean, as closer as we get to the source, the better I think data quality will get. And problems in ML and in data engineering is, I mean, obviously there's a lot of problems, but data quality is usually the most common one that I see. So I think the shift left paradigm is for sure a really good one.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's not solved. Still not solved. It kind of has been there forever. And I think we went through different type of paradigms. Like in the beginning, we had, I don't know, Teradata was quite popular. You worked at Teradata, Zach, I think, no?
Yeah, I worked at Teradata many moons ago. Yes,
many moons ago. Teradata was a thing. There was a big place where all the schemas and everything, all the tables were there, all in one place. And then they understood it was really complicated to get data in there. It was really slow. So let's just make a data lake, data swamp. And now we are going back to some kind of governance on top of that.
Now we have Delta Lake.
Interesting shift. Yeah, we have Delta Lake now. It's kind of interesting shift back to the roots, I guess, in certain ways.
Yeah, I've what's so crazy is that I have only. My exposure to Delta Lake is 1 week, and it's all this year because it's I did a lot with Iceberg for the last.
That's funny because it's the other way around for me. I have rarely touched Iceberg.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, I was Iceberg's third beta tester in 2018. So I was one of the very, 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 very first Iceberg users ever, right? And back when it was at Netflix and it was really awful actually, because back then it was still having all that pioneer tax and they were trying to work out all the roughness around the edges of it. But it's very interesting how but it's interesting because I like Delta more in some ways because I think it's actually it feels more like Hive. And I guess there's some things about Hive that I liked. It's like Hive but without all the drawbacks, right? And I like that about it, right? Whereas Iceberg feels a little too fancy sometimes. And I'm like, no, I don't like it. Like the partition columns, the partition key should be a column. No, none of this hidden shit. I don't like the hidden shit. It's not, I don't know. I don't like
Right.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Right.
Yeah, no, it is much, I think especially that one, the partitioning is much more straightforward using, I think, Delta Lake.
Yeah.
Choose the right tool
Yeah.
for the right job. I think,
But
all these storage wars these days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get a little tired from it, to be honest.
not just storage wars. I think like if you use Databricks, pretty much using, if you wanted to read Delta table, you would have to use Spark pretty much. But now they're also shifting paradigm that it's possible with with credential sharing. You can just read it with Delta the Delta Lake package and to PyArrow, and then you load it to Polars without ever using PySpark, which
Yeah.
I think is a big shift, because for machine learning, we use Pandas and Polars.
Yeah.
And if you want to transform a PySpark into Pandas or Polars, like it's very slow process. I don't know, it's very inefficient command.
Yeah.
If you just read from Parquet to, I'm just saying, to Pandas, it's like 3 times faster than doing the same from PySpark.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of overhead in Spark, obviously, and
Yeah.
I mean, it does depend on the volumes, obviously. I mean, there's a trade-off somewhere, but usually, and I think that there's this fantastic article. I don't know who wrote it, but it's called "Big Data is Dead." So what they're basically saying is most companies can just use something like DuckDB or Polars or
Mother
whatever.
Duck, I think, wrote
I think
it,
yeah, it might have been Mother Duck.
Yeah, we had Medi on earlier.
Yeah, I was
Medi,
watching Medi.
yeah.
Yeah, Medi.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
watching Medi earlier. But yeah, you don't need Spark at all for everything, and definitely not for machine learning models.
Yeah.
So I do see a big chance there for engines like Polars and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it also can be faster as well, even for some kind of pre-processing and before
Yeah.
you get data into machine learning model, depending on what you do, obviously, and what your dimensionalities are.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love that. That's one of the things that like I've always found so strange is that like Spark definitely has its place for volume and parallel stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like most of the use cases in my career, I'm like, I think I could still do it like single threaded with Polars or single threaded with Pandas, and that like it would probably, in some ways, it's probably a wash. It's probably like almost the same in processing time, like or maybe like a little bit slower, but like it might be still worth it. Like, and it's
Might be
very
cheaper.
A lot of people are using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
Yeah, right. 100%.
Honestly, yeah.
It was just like Databricks branded too well. They were like Spark is the future. Everyone use it, right? And it was like, wait a minute, guys. Like maybe we don't actually have big data. Like
yeah, no, but there's coming more and more ways to not invoke the Spark context also in Databricks, and I think there's a lot of future there for a lot of companies and people.
Yeah,
which is just fantastic because you don't always need Spark.
Yeah.
No, I like that shift as well. I like that shift.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, like, I think the big thing there that needs to shift though is all of the coupling, the coupling that Spark has with open table formats, the coupling with Iceberg, the coupling with Delta, all those freaking commands that you have to run on Delta and on Iceberg that can only be done in Spark, right? And it's like okay, like I remember like in my first bootcamp in January, I was like, guys, you should use PyIceberg to compact the files, and then you just can't. Like it's the API doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. Like it's crazy. There's an open PR on the repo that would add it, but it's just been open for like 6 months. I'm like, guys, like I would love it if you guys would add it, because then I can have what you're talking about, Maria, where it's like, dude, like maybe I just want to compact my files with Python. Maybe I don't need a massively distributed system to run my file compaction. I can just I can do it with a little simple Python API. Like
I know there's a lot of Delta readers and writers pull requests still open for a lot of different libraries,
right?
But eventually we'll get there.
It's exciting times, right? I mean, it's so interesting. So I guess one of the questions I'm curious to ask both of y'all, because you obviously have tons of experience in all of this, is AI and especially generative AI. people ask me every single day of my entire life. They're like, so is data engineering dead? Like, is generative
get the
AI
same
going to
question.
eat? Is generative AI going to eat data engineering? Is it going to eat machine learning? Like what does it look like in the future? Like, I'm just curious. Like, do you guys have any like both like maybe how it's changing things like in the near term, and maybe like some speculation on what things might look like in 5 years?
I see a shift happening already. So whereas a couple of years ago, even you would have data engineering teams that were quite large on juniors and meteors. So you would have like a team of 6 or 7 people with a couple of juniors, couple of meteors, couple of seniors. And what I'm seeing now is most teams are just relying on a couple of seniors or even staff engineers, and the junior role. I don't want to say it's disappearing, but when you're looking at the career ladder, like envision a ladder in front of you, like the first steps, what are the rungs of the ladder?
Yeah.
They're not there anymore, right? So yeah, that's what I'm seeing. The teams are becoming smaller, and you don't need as much capacity anymore to do most of the work. IKEA is a perfect example of this. The previous project team that was working on my platform consisted of, I think, 4 full-time consultants, and now it's just me plus another one. So we've gone down in the amount of people working and doing the same work, with obviously the help of generative AI. And as for the future, what I do think is that eventually, Zach, you and Maria, we will get older, and I think the youngsters will. I think at one point there will be a trade-off. The youngsters will get really good at generating code with generative AI, and the learning curve for us will become steeper and steeper, and that's where I think the market is heading. That's what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah, that's very similar, like what Rahul was saying. Like, so Rahul was like literally the second talk here where we talked literally about that, about because that's what Zuck said. Zuck was like, yeah, we don't need mid-level engineers anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I know.
okay, well then how do we get more seniors then? Like what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
because
a real
the
problem.
seniors are eventually also going away, right? Because at some point there will be no seniors left, and you will need new juniors. The sword catches on both ends, I would say.
No, but I mean, in large organizations, they are complex. Most of the problems are not really tech problems; they are organization problems, and you need the people to solve them. And there is no, speeding up for that often. So that's still there, and I don't see that going away that fast for really large companies. But I agree. I'm also way more efficient now than I used to be when I can now use Copilot. Or other models, just to generate code faster. So, and I have enough experience to see whether it's bullshit or not, and I know why it wouldn't be working. But for juniors, I think that's much harder at a certain stage, because they were not exposed to that much code in their career. They haven't suffered as much, I guess. So that's still a thing. But yeah, becoming really efficient with these tools is really important for everyone. But if we look at another thing now, Gen AI is kind of being pushed everywhere to all kind of use cases where it doesn't even make sense. And
100%.
I feel that it's kind of, people see that it doesn't really create that much impact for the use cases they were hoping it would create. So I guess we are going back to, to more standard ML appreciation of that again in the coming years.
And data engineering.
And data engineering for sure. And Gen AI does have its place, obviously. I think for for customer support, there are quite a lot of things that could be done using Gen AI, and a lot of them are just not really Gen AI, just automation. I think just automation would solve a lot of problems in many situations. But yeah, I think we will go back to basics at some stage in coming years for sure.
That's amazing.
We all know the Gartner hype cycle, right? Where we've gone through the peak of inflated expectations, and we're now somewhere at the, what is it called, throw of disillusionment. I think the future is bright, but we have a bit of work to do still on the foundation of things, which is data engineering, data quality, those types of things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more use cases will be generated thanks to speed up in the development process, but also because Gen AI unlocks new use cases, we will be in this situation again that we need to realize that all of that needs to be deployed reliably to production, and MLOps becomes more popular again. So we are going to hit that as well.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you guys so much. I just want to tell people listening right now, so you can get 50% off my AI and data bootcamp if you use code MLOps at checkout. Check it out here at dataexpert.io/MLOps. We are literally launching on Monday. It's going to go from Monday until August. So it's going to be a long journey, but thank you guys so much. Wow. Thank you guys so much for
really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. I have 3 more hours. Fun. 3 more hours until I can
take some espresso, and good luck to you.
Yeah, right. For sure, for sure. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for showing up today. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Taking a 5-minute break, y'all. Funny. Let's finish this. Okay. All right, y'all are here. Okay, let me add you, Bruno. Add you, Madison. How's it going, everybody?
Hello.
Welcome. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. It's good.
Yeah, how's your energy level?
I mean, I would say I'm at like 60%. Like, I mean, it was. I feel like I rocked like not like the 90 to 80% drain was like 12 hours though, dude. I don't know. There was something about like freaking, especially like it was after there was the Dutch guy at 11 p.m. and he gave me this crazy lecture on like the war in Ukraine and like misinformation. It was if you look at all of the conversations that we've had on this whole thing, that's the one that's the most different. Right. And but like it was very interesting. And then it got me so fired up, right? And then I'm like, dude, I feel alive. So anyways, welcome Madison, welcome Bruno. You guys are amazing. I'm glad y'all. Good morning, right? I mean, it's a good time to be alive. I'm just curious. First off, I want to like talk about y'all's like background. So Bruno's my friend. Bruno has been teaching in the Data Expert Bootcamps. He's like an amazing instructor. People love him. He's like one of the best DBT people I've ever met in my entire life. He's like a DBT spotlight hero. Don't you work at PH Data or something like the PH Data?
Yeah.
So you work at PH Data, and you live in Brazil, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. And then Madison, you live on the West Coast. I for some reason thought you lived in like Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know why, but I thought there was I think there's someone else in my life who has like similar vibes to you who lives in Charlotte. Oh, I know who it is. I know who it is. You kind of give me Alexis Berthels. I'll send you the profile. There's this other creator named Alexis who I think I mixed up with you. But anyways, but yeah, you're on the West Coast. You have the Learn Analytics Engineering newsletter, right? You've been writing on that for some time. And where do you work right now?
I work at Kit.
Kit. Oh yeah, Kit. Yeah, Kit for sure. Kit is. I will always call it ConvertKit. I don't know. Like it's still in my brain. I'm like Kit. Every time I hear Kit, I'm like that's a Kit Kat. I'm sorry. Kit Kat has a superior brand to Kit. You know, as like it's hard. It's hard. My brain. I don't know. I'm also 21 hours deep in this. So, but anyways, one of the things that I think is great about these conversations is we have gone over all sorts of different things. And I think one of the big things we just finished an analytics engineering bootcamp it's like a week ago now, Bruno, something like that. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are. So like on analytics engineering and like the future of it, because I think there's a side of people who are like nervous just about like the data analyst title and the analytics engineer title and where AI is going and like all this stuff. And I'm just curious, like, first off, what are your thoughts on the analytics engineer role overall? Not including AI, but like where do you think it's going to go, or like its prospects and things like that?
Okay. Yeah, I can start. So just good morning, Zach, and good morning, Madison. I think we never met, so nice to meet you. And hello to everyone that's watching. Yeah, my view about the analytics engineer role is like I'm not. I don't think that DBT came up with this role, but for sure it was DBT that made this role popular, so that made this title more known. And I think it's like it is not so a revolutionary role because it's a thing that like it's a work that both data engineers and data analysts can perform. I think like there are a lot of data engineers that work with DBT. There are a lot of data analysts that work with DBT. For example, at PH Data, I'm a data engineer and I work with DBT. So I'm not too attached to these roles. But I think that DBT came up with this name to build a framework that is there too, that is perfect for the people who work with that understand about the business and work also in the like more transformation and data engineering side. But I think it's a work that can be done by all data engineers, data analysts, data scientists. I think it's something that that it's hard to put a line and to divide those roles.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, it's blurry. It's super blurry.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was like, I mean, when based on what the current definition of it is, my role at Facebook was an analytics engineer. Just based on like what the current definition of it is, right? And like it's very interesting how like yeah, they're all kind of connected in their own ways, right? And that like that I think the one thing that I like about analytics engineer versus like say like data engineer is the idea of that there's a little bit more of a focus on the business and a little bit more focus on like stakeholder management. I think that those are two things that are the one thing that is like maybe a slight difference between the two is going to be that, right? It's like, well, like what are the metrics? What are we caring about? What are the actual analytics of it, right? Not just like how do we source the data, right? It's going to have like kind of all the pieces to it. Like yeah, that's good. I mean, like how long have you been using DBT, Bruno?
Yeah, I think for now 3 years. So my career actually started with DBT. So from day one of my career, I was
Dude,
using DBT.
you picked a good
And
one.
yeah,
I mean, has it changed a lot in those
yeah,
3 years? Like,
yeah. No,
is it easier now, or is it like is it different, or?
yeah, no. Like it changed a lot. Like and it's still changing. And just if anyone wants to join on Wednesday, they will do a, a a launch. I forgot the name, but they will announce a lot of new capabilities for DBT, and a lot because of their acquisition of SDF Labs, that was a competitor, and a lot of new SQL understanding stuff. So yeah, it's changing a lot. It becomes easier in a way that they are making this more user friendly, but it also gets a bit more complex because they add more capabilities. So yeah,
Yeah, it is interesting. I feel like I've only used DBT Core for like since I started with DBT, and they actually haven't changed the DBT Core product in I think maybe 2 years, which is interesting that they're putting all of their, I guess, eggs in the cloud basket.
Yeah, they got to make some money. They got to make money somehow, right? I mean, it's just
yeah, and just let me add a comment to that. Yeah, they in those last years they were focusing a lot on DBT Cloud, like adding a lot of new stuff because like DBT started as a only transformation tool, so everyone was like DBT is the T in the ELT, DBT is just transformation. And now with DBT Cloud they wanted to make it more than a just transformation tool, so they added things like orchestration, catalog, semantic layer, other things. They want to make DBT not more just a transformation tool, but more. And in the last conference they had last year, they announced like the DBT One. It's their initiative to make DBT like they want to bring. How can I say that? They want to make DBT a framework that you can use for like they are developing. Okay, let me take a step back, because they want DBT to be a framework for the whole analytics engineering work, and they are bringing a lot of software engineering ideas and best practice to analytics engineering. So they are developing like a analyst development life cycle, and that encompass everything from plan, develop, test, deploy, operate, observe, analyze. And they want to make DBT a framework that does all of that. And they are trying to make a DBT not more a choice between DBT Cloud and DBT Core. They want to make those two things like more and more integrated. So I think that they will bring a lot of news on this launch webinar. I'm very excited for that. And yeah, but they like Zach said, that they also want need to make money. So there are things that they want to make it easier for people want to pay for their management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I love the model, like where it's like, okay, you can use it. It's open source. It's great, right? But then it's also like if you want a little bit more like management or extra features or whatnot, then like you can add on the cloud and the cloud offering. It's very like, I mean, I think that's like a model that's a lot like we literally had a like it's so interesting talking with you guys about DBT right now because like almost on the exact it was on the exact other end of this stream at the beginning, right? I had a call with there was Tobiko Data and SQL Mesh and like those guys, right? And like very interesting because it's like those guys are like the kind of like it's like the other it's like I don't know, it's like the Pepsi and Coke of this space, right? I mean, like it's pretty good. Like so Madison, I wanted to ask you a little bit because both you and Bruno are like pretty prolific writers actually. So I want to get both of your perspectives on like, do you think that there's has writing impacted your career in a way? Like has it helped you in any ways that you might have thought was unexpected?
I mean, it's definitely helped me get jobs. I think the role that I have now, someone reached out to me because of my newsletter and how I write on LinkedIn. So I would say that's like the number one thing, but also just like establishing yourself as a leader in the data space and like an expert of these tools and like being able to collaborate with these data companies has been a really awesome perk of writing and sharing online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. What about you, Bruno?
Yeah, same thing for me. Like my current job was because of my of the post and then the content of LinkedIn. So because of that, a friend that works at Pitch Data, that they were needing a DBT guy, and he was reading my content and he referred me, and now I am at Pitch Data. And just try to comment just to brag.
Yes.
My Pitch Data is also the service. I always forget the title, but it's the partner of the year of DBT for 2 times in a row for service. So that's a big deal.
Boom. Let's go. Right. That's amazing. I mean, it's very interesting how like companies can like choose so many different things, right? Because one of the things that I find interesting about like companies that do that, they kind of bet really hard on these partnerships is like you have other engineers who are going to like screech because they're going to be like vendor lock-in. Oh no, right? It's like, oh no, I'm scared. It's like vendor lock-in, and it's like, but it's like, I don't know. Is that? But then it's interesting how different businesses kind of perceive it differently. Like, because it's like there's going to be other people who are like, no, it's not vendor lock-in. It's a partnership. It's like we're building together almost, right? And it's like it's intriguing, right? Because I think a lot of it really depends on like how big the company is. Because it's like if you're like betting your entire farm on Databricks, like just Databricks, it's like it's a little different than DBT. I feel like because it's like Databricks is already like a $100 billion company, right? Are you also a $100 billion company? Then maybe it's a partnership, but otherwise it might be vendor lock-in at that point. Like I don't know. It's like I think that there's like this like interesting disparity kind of thing where it's like if the company that you are going all in on is dramatically larger than you, I think it's more labeled as vendor lock-in, but it's also probably the same thing, right? It's also just like maybe a more positive and negative spin on the same word, right? I mean, so where did you discover DBT, Bruno? Like where was that about? Like how did you like? You're saying that it was like literally like it sounds like you were like we were like first day out of college, I learned DBT and I fell in love, like or like how did it go down?
Yeah, actually, I was finishing college, and I had no job. I had nothing, and I was I was trying to find a job or get a master, anything, and then there's a company here that they here at my city here in Brazil that they are very big in now they are very big in DBT too, and that they were offering analytics engineering course. It was like the first analytics engineering course in Brazil, and I took it just to like I was shooting. Maybe this could be an opportunity, and that there is where I fell in love with DBT, because I was in college. I was very into AI and machine learning, but I, then I understood that to make to have a good AI, to have a good machine learning stuff, you need to have good data, good tables, good models, good data modeling. And then okay, I want to work with that. I think that's something that people are needing more right now, to have a good foundation, a good data modeling, and then they can work with AI and machine learning. And then after the course, I got uh, I joined the company that I was giving the course, and then yeah, that's how I started in DBT.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. It's so interesting because it's like the way that you are like speaking about DBT is very similar to like I think the way that I speak about Spark, right? It's like that thing that's like it was that technology that like was just like like you got it. You're like I am that guy. I am the DBT guy. I am the Spark guy. It's like it's my thing. Madison, do you have any tech like that? Is there like is DBT your vibe, or like is there another tech that you are like, dude, that's my shit?
I mean, I wouldn't say there's like one thing that I kind of own, but the way that I found out about DBT was like kind of funny because I was working at Capital One at the time. We were doing data engineering, and someone on the team like introduced me to this tool, and we were just using it to like seed these really big like financial CSVs and like do some basic transformation on it. And then we use some like internal tool to convert them to like Parquet files. But it's just funny that the reason we were using it was for like seeding these huge CSVs, which is definitely not how you're supposed to use DBT. But it's funny how like when you're introduced to technology, even if it's used in the wrong way, and then you can become obsessed with it and like learning how to actually use it the right way.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like, I mean, there's a book I read. This is like really long time ago. Like this is like probably 2012, 2013. So this guy named Douglas Crockford. Have you ever heard of him? He's like one of the creators of JavaScript. And so there's like two books, and there's like a meme about it. There's like one book called like JavaScript: The Comprehensive Guide, and it's like this thick. And then there's another book called JavaScript: The Good Parts, and it's like this thick, right? And it's like I'm like, wow, that language has a lot of garbage in it. Then like, holy shit. But like, I mean, that's one of the things I like about like these newer techs, like the newer stuff that's coming out, the stuff that's like, I don't know, the stuff that's only been around since like, I don't know, 2015, 2016. One of the things that's really nice about it is that it doesn't have as much of that baggage. It doesn't have like the historical baggage of like being around in the 90s and shit, where it's like, yeah, we don't have to like worry about those design decisions that were made back then, right? And it's very interesting because then you have like these cleaner types. That's one of the things I do like about DBT in particular, is that it feels like it's a very like the UX of it is very clean, and the experience on it is like really good, because you got to have that, because if you don't have that experience, like you're just gonna go back to like writing raw SQL, I guess, like, or you're just gonna go back and like you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna do it this way, So, but there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can kind of like go about building pipelines, like. So I guess Bruno, like for the people, and there's like 250 people on the call right now. All right, and so for the people on the call right now, like what would you say? No pressure, by the way. Why use DBT? Why? What is the purpose? Like, because I think that some people probably are like, why should we even care?
Sure. Yeah. Then let me see how I say that, because before DBT, and that's a thing that like I was not there before DBT. My career started with DBT, but as far as I know, how people used to do transformation after all the rise of the the cloud data warehouses and stuff, it was more like or drag and drop tools or writing store procedures and or notebooks, and that caused a lot of problems because how how do you test them? How test store procedures? How do you document them? How do you establish the lineage between them? How do you make that modular? Uh, all those stuff, and like it was very chaotic, and analysts were like it was hard for analysts to find the source of truth, what they had to query. Then they had to ask data engineers, but data engineers were busy with maybe infrastructure stuff, and that the communication was slower. And the DBT, they tried to fix the scales, like put some order there, and they started with two principles. The first one is work like engineers do code. So one principle of DBT is everything is done by code, so uh, not drag and drop and stuff. And the other one is to bring software engineering best practices to analytics engineering, because software engineering is a much more mature field, and like analytics engineering was lacking a lot of best practices. So that they were the ones that brought modular code to analytics engineering, to SQL, uh, automated testing, CI/CD, documentation with more. Yeah, they brought a lot of software engineering best practices. They are bringing even more, and this is one thing you can use. You can make you can work like software engineers in data. That's one thing. The other one, the community around DBT is one of the best data communities I've seen. You get a lot of support. They hear the community a lot. They made a lot of changes here in the community. That they have a very broad integration with like all the modern data tools, and they were built like for from SQL users to SQL users. DBT is very SQL first, and it helps with data democratization. It helps allowing everyone in the data pipeline, from data engineers to analysts, to work together. And yeah, so they help you to put some order in the chaos that is the like transformation pipeline in data engineering.
I love that. I love that. Like, it's so interesting because like when I worked at Facebook, they didn't have DBT, right? They just, but they had like kind of like a rudimentary DBT where they just were like, dude, you got to use a lot of Jinja, like kind of that, you know how DBT has that Jinja templating kind of thing. Yeah. They loved that. They loved the Jinja templating part, and I'm like, guys, like, and now like now it makes sense because like I had a vision of something that would be like replacing the god awful Jinja templating, and it would go in a way that would kind of be more connected with a deeper, more friendly vision of this stuff. And like DBT was slam dunk in that way. I mean, like, what are some other tools in the stack that you use, Bruno, on a day to day? So DBT is a piece of it. What other tools do you use in your job to like get your analytics done?
Yeah, like I'm very focused on DBT in my job, and like uh, I work a lot with DBT, but DBT can't work alone. So when you use DBT, you have to integrate with other tools. So like you need to have an ingestion tool. You need to have a data warehouse. Like yeah, and for data warehouse, I work a lot with Snowflake because PH Data is also partner of the year for Snowflake. So we are very Snowflake focused, but also have experience with Databricks and BigQuery. And for integration, then yeah, a lot of things. Fivetran, maybe just Python pipelines with Airflow. Oh, Airflow is also a very good tool to work with DBT, especially DBT Core. And they have a tool called Cosmos, and that is like Airflow for DBT. Cosmos is actually from Astronomer. Sorry, Astronomer has a tool called Cosmos that is like to make a better integration with DBT and Airflow. But yeah, but
That's dope.
You have a lot of other options like Trino. You like Trino, you can work DBT with Trino.
I love Trino. Trino. I don't know. Like I'm a fan. I'm a fan. What's your, if you had to pick one execution engine, Madison, what would you pick?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I have that strong of an opinion.
Yeah. Just what was the first one that came to mind? Something came to mind.
I don't know.
I think I'd pick Trino. I like Trino. I like Spark too, though, but they're complicated. I feel like you can't compare them because they're not like one of them is like a pure SQL and the other one is not. So like, I mean, like Trino's great. The thing I like about Trino in particular is that it's like purely open source. That's why I have a harder time with Snowflake, right? Because Snowflake, I'm like, there's a business there, right? There's a business, right? And same with BigQuery, there's a business there, right? Redshift, there's a business there, right? And it's like Trino is like, no, it's actually like legitimate, like open source, right? It's kind of crazy. Like it's like there's a like there, that's definitely one of the things I've been wondering about with that stuff, right? Is like that was the have you guys used SQL Glot at all? Have you heard of SQL Glot?
No.
Oh my god, like so. Dude, I've learned so much in the last 21 hours, by the way. I hope you guys realize, like, like, okay, anyways, like SQL Glot is a way that you can write SQL one time and then it will translate to any of the dialects. So it's like think of it as almost like a higher order SQL, right? It's a SQL that will like essentially take you can write a SQL and then you can be like, okay, I want it to be Trino, or I want it to be BigQuery, or I want it to be, Spark, or I want it to be Hive, or I want it to be whatever, dialect that you care about. But the thing that's cool about it is then it's like if you are, you say you have like a DBT model or something like that, then you can use SQL Glot to like essentially be like, okay, I don't want this to be on Spark anymore. I want it to be on Trino. Or like I want to do it like in another, like you can kind of like have any sort of like engine. I think it's a very cool way to go, because then it's like if your company ever migrates, then it's like, okay, hopefully they migrate to something that's SQL based. Like, if it's not SQL based, that's gonna be suffering. I think that's gonna be a lot of suffering. But like, I mean, I think that's definitely one of those. It's a really cool feature. That's another thing that the SQL Mesh guy. There's the SQL Mesh guy did SQL Mesh and SQL Glot. He did both. That's like he's an interesting guy. So, but like, yeah, that's one of the things about these conversations that I've found to be like kind of connected with all the rest of this stuff. Okay, so I guess how do you think analytics engineers best make impact? Because I know there's a lot of people in this call who are looking to get promoted as an analytics engineer, or they're looking to like make more money as an analytics engineer, and like I know a lot of that comes back to like having a good story. Yeah, Madison, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I think honestly the thing that really sets like junior analytics engineers from senior analytics engineers is really communication and your ability to really drive projects and the strategy behind projects. And that's like something I'm personally working on too. Like I haven't always been the best at project management, and recently leading bigger projects has shown me how important it is to like, define the roadmap ahead of you, and like being able to predict how long things are going to take, and just all of the technical expertise required behind that. So I think that makes a huge difference, because it does require talking with stakeholders, truly understanding the problem, figuring out what they need, and then being able to take those requirements and code them and produce a technical solution that's going to address all of those.
Yeah, I love that. I love it because it's like as you grow in your career, that's just what happens, right? Is the timelines that you work with just get longer, right? Instead of working on a project, now you're working on a quarter, then you're working on a half, then you're working on a year, then you're working on multiple years, right? And trying to figure out like how to like predict a little bit deeper into the future, right? Of like, okay, like what is going on here, right? So,
yep.
I mean, yeah, but what about you, Bruno? Like, how would you say like an analytics engineer makes the best impact, and like how they can get promoted?
Yeah, I think I would say the same as Madison. You have basically, well, I think what makes the more difference is understanding. One thing is understanding the business, and that's what's differentiates you the most from the engineers. And I think that that's the hardest part of AI taking over, like this understanding of the specific business needs of that company. And the other thing is like bringing like optimizing your transformation pipeline, running only what you need when you need, and making sure you are bringing value with that
Yeah.
pipeline. So I think that those are the two things. And can I just get back to another topic? Just try to comment. You were talking about SQL Glot and the
Yeah.
SQL Mesh, and I've watched their interview. I found it that awesome. That Toby is a very very great guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that like DBT and SQL Mesh are competitors, but I love this competition in the field, because that what makes like both tools better. And like last year there was DBT, SQL Mesh, and SDF, that they were like all three they were competitors. And like SQL Mesh and SDF, they were bringing this better SQL understanding, because DBT was treating SQL just as a big string. So a SQL was just a big string, and SQL Mesh and SDF were treating SQL as like, I'm not sure how to call it, but a structured language where each word has a
It's an
role there.
it's an AST. It's an abstract syntax tree. Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah,
AST, right? That's like the what SQL compiles into. The
yeah,
AST. Yeah.
exactly. And but because of that competition, that made DBT move in that way too. And their move was to acquire SDF. So now that SDF is part of DBT, and now they are integrating this. It was in January, and since from them that they are trying to merge this new SQL understanding features in DBT, including this SQL translation knowledge, so to be able to translate SQL from different syntaxes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so they are working on this. So very soon DBT will hopefully be capable of doing those stuff too. And that's the good thing about competition. Like if there was only DBT, not SQL Mesh, not SDF, maybe this would take longer to happen. Now because of the competition, things are getting much
Yeah,
more
it's like, oh
accelerated.
shit, we need that feature. I think the thing that I thought was so crazy from that whole conversation with Toby was like when he was like, yeah, dude, like select star doesn't bring in the columns anymore. And I was like, what? Like, and it's like, because like if you add a column, like it at least in SQL Mesh, I don't know if this DBT will probably have this too soon, or like, I don't know. It's like if you do select star and someone added a column upstream, it won't bring it in. And I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, which because it does like a find and replace essentially of like, because it's like column aware, and it will do find and replace on star and only put the columns in there, which I'm like, that's just seems a little fancy to me. That seems a little fancy smanchy. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, okay. So I'm wondering like some other things here, like about like how are either of you guys using Gen AI in your roles right now? Like, and like actually, like, and how is it impacting y'all at all in terms of like how like you do analytics engineering work? Like,
Honestly, like in the data stack, no. I think we have so much work to do that we're not even in a place to use AI. Like just building out core data models is something like when you're a small team, you really don't have those. And there's just a lot of basic things that the business needs before you can even think about using AI. I mean, I have been using it more in terms of like my processes and my workflow. And it's been helpful then for like debugging or for explaining code that I might not understand, or just like giving me ideas on how to solve something. But other than that, I haven't been using it like actually implemented in the data stack.
I like that. What about you, Bruno?
Yeah, like first for personal things, personal projects, I use it a lot. So I'm always using it to help me writing code. But for work, we work with clients, and like the client I'm working with right now, they are very like they cautious about Gen AI. So I'm not using it already. They have a lot of hard policies on that. But one thing that I want to point out is that in DBT Cloud, that they have integrated Gen AI, so they have one thing called DBT Copilot that is meant to help you writing YAML stuff, writing tests, writing documents, writing semantic models, and to help you writing SQL, and also understanding the SQL. You can ask what that code is doing. So that is something that they've done, but I haven't used that much because yeah, because each client has a policy on Gen AI.
Yeah. You got to be careful about like the privacy, and you don't want them sharing company secrets to OpenAI, and like, because you got to think about like how many companies, like, well, how many times like that has probably happened anyway, right? Where it's even with a company that has a policy, it's like how many times has like a freaking like, you know, piece of the code base that is proprietary just been sent right up to OpenAI, and they're like, thank you. We're just trying to devour all the public and private internet, and you're going to do it one little bit at a time. Yeah. So what do you guys have any opinion on Ray as a processing framework? I feel like it comes up in my brain. Someone's just saying this, like, for example, I've been learning more about Ray, how Ray is helping AWS be 82% more efficient than Spark in compaction to reconcile updates to tables. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those things where like there's definitely interesting like technology out there that is doing things. I think for me, I'm worthless in this space because I'm not a data engineer anymore. So like, I mean, I teach it, but it's like really cool production use cases. I don't know. I need to learn more in that space. I feel like that's definitely something that I'm slowly decaying on. You know, I'm slowly becoming not a practitioner, which is so weird. Like,
Yeah, you gotta force yourself to keep learning and trying like new
yeah,
projects.
it's scary, dude. It's scary. Like, that's why I have
Yeah,
to
like
just overdose 24 hours, right? Learn everything from everyone in one day. All right. Like, go ahead, Bruno.
yeah, that's one thing that I'm very afraid of. Like if I decided for like for example, if I decided to leave my current job to only teach DBT, for example, I'm very afraid that I would not be like updated with the new features, or I would lose some practice, and I would not be teaching as good as I am right now, because every day I'm practicing it, so I can explain that better. So that's one thing that for now my mindset is that I have to keep working on that, like every day, to be updated. Yeah, but that's one thing that maybe not now, but that's one thing that I wanted to hear more about you, like how you feel about that, since you are not like working like every day with that
Yeah,
tool.
that's a good one. I mean, I'm learning. I mean, I'm still building. I mean, like the tech skills that I'm building are just not data skills like as much, right? I'm building full stack skills. I'm building AI skills. I mean, I'm still building a lot with AI, building a lot with freaking TypeScript, right? That's like, I think, and then like that's the skills, at least in the tech space. That's what I'm really building up on. I think I still do a bit in the other places, like still a little bit with Iceberg, still like some of that stuff is like, I mean, is it important to be in like a production use case to like maximize the learning so that you understand all of the trade-offs? Yes. But at the same time, like I already worked with Iceberg for 7 years. So it's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, is it going to change? Probably not. Right. It's like, is Spark going to change? Probably not. Right. It's like, it's been about the same since like 2020. right? They added some fancy little features here. They made skew a little bit better there, but like at the end of the day, we have an executor and we have drivers, right? We have a driver and executors, and we just freaking, the architecture is exactly the same as it was 12 years ago, right? So it's like, it's not like there has been any fundamental changes. So like, that's one of the things that I think is important is like, actually, I would think for you, Bruno, that it's actually sometimes the other way around. When like, if you are on the ground floor and you learn like a version of the API that is like older and harder to work with, usually, I mean, well, here's an example for me is like, I still love using the operator API in Airflow. All right. And I feel like a boomer or something like that when I use the operator, because everyone else uses the nice little task API and it looks really fancy. And their DAGs are like 10 lines of code. And my DAG is like 100 lines of code. And I feel old. All right. But at the same time, I'm like, that's just what I was raised on. And I know that my DAG is going to be just in production. My DAG is going to be exactly the same as your DAG. And the only difference is this syntactical sugar that you were able to save 10 lines of code or whatever, right? With your freaking little, decorators, right? So, but like what I'm saying though, is that DBT at its core, like the actual like functionality at the bottom layer is there, right? And it's like you already have 95% of it. Like, will things change? Yes. Will it be re-architected? No. Will it change? Probably. Will there be a feature that you can learn in 5 seconds? Yes. Is it a feature that you can probably like pick up with Gen AI by just like asking it, okay, what's this new feature about? What does incremental do? Or like, what is this about? Like, what is this like, this new like SQL glot freaking thing that is working out? Like, what is that about? Right. So it's like, I think that like there is the, I guess, and I know that like for me, like I actually tested this when I interviewed at Meta last year and OpenAI last year, where I was like, "Am I still a practitioner?" And I was like, "I murdered the technical rounds, murdered them." It was just no, it was like entrepreneurship ruined my personality, not my freaking, not my tech skills, right? Okay, but that's not something you would expect, right? I mean, so
Way to keep updated on the skills, just go in for some interviews.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I think that that's kind of what it is at the end of the day, right? Is that there's a lot of different ways of doing things that you can kind of go about. I don't know, like with confidence, right? I think that, and I think there's another layer of this that is important. That's not really about like what you're learning or what you're focusing on, and it's more about that you are learning, right? And that you're picking up. It's similar, like like when you look at like dementia patients, right? A lot of times, like those people, like or you look at like there's a group of nuns in Italy, right, that are all like 110 years old or like 100 years old, and they almost none of them have dementia, which is like statistically very rare, right? And the reason why that happens is because these nuns are dedicated to a lifelong of learning. They're even learning new shit in their 90s, right? And they're still learning and growing. It's like, imagine you were like 90, Bruno, and you were like, dude, I need to go and pick up SQL Mesh, right? And like, and like it's like also kind of inspiring. You're like, dude, yeah, I'm doing that to like keep my brain healthy, right? And to keep my brain kind of moldable and flexible. But like, I guess for me, I don't really worry too much about it, because it's like, I feel like once you hit senior and you have that strong foundational skills, you have to do this in like each discipline though. Like, I feel like you have to like reach senior engineer as like an analytics person, as a data engineer, as a full stack engineer, in order to like have that confidence, like, okay, my skills are not going to erode that much, even if I wait a long time. Obviously, I'm running an experiment here, because like this is the first time I've like taken a considerable break from pipeline work in my whole life. So like some of this is also like, I don't know, I'm flipping coins, but we'll see. Like,
You can always take on like a consulting project if you really
yeah. If I really just want to like get it in there and just like freaking, like I just miss it. I just miss freaking running data pipeline code, right? And just like in production. I don't know. Like yeah, that you're totally right. Where there's a way to learn it that way and like keep it up. But like, I mean, I don't know, I did it for 10 years. I think that, Bruno, I think there's another thing like where like maybe your fear is a little more founded because like, so you've been doing DBT for 3 years. There might be a line there where maybe at five you're like, okay, now I'm, I'll never forget it. Right. I think that there might be like you might need 2 more years and then you'll be like locked in at that point. And then like, it's like, it's like written to long-term memory forever at that point and you're good. Like, I have no idea though, obviously. like there's so many different ways you can go about it. Like, I guess the other thing that I realized that like I think is one more thing that I think is important is Sam Altman has a quote, right? Which is, any role in technology that is sufficiently senior is a sales role. Right? That is Sam Altman, and Elon Musk has a very similar quote that's like kind of a paraphrasing of that. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like I guess that's the other part of for me that I recognize is that like even if I lost all my tech skills right now and I just kept my sales and marketing skills, I'd be fine. that would be it'd be difficult. It'd be difficult because then I'd have to use like Gen AI to make all my content because I'd be like dumb about data, and then I'd be a giant phony, right? Because I would have forgotten all my data engineering knowledge, and I'm the data engineering guy, which would be like very like emotionally weird, but financially I'd be fine, right? I think it's because it's like when as you grow, it's more about persuading other people what to do, right? And I think that's the like. And if you're doing that and and you should be doing that, trying to do that more and more, persuading other people to take actions, right? And it's like, if you're persuading other people to take actions, then, and you have a vision for your life, then you will never go wrong. And that's like and those skills are going to be even safer from AI than even tech skills. So like, that's I think that's one of those things that like, where I also have been noticing that in my life where I'm like, but I still love the code. I love it. It's my lifeblood. It's what gives me energy. Whenever I like complete a really sick feature or a really sick data set, like I feel so like powerful. I'm like, dude, look at this. I want to show it to everybody. I'm always like, hey mom, check this out. Look at this cool feature. Like, I don't know. I feel so proud, and it's like, there's a side of it that's like when you're trying to like work through these technology things, and it's like, okay, like, what is giving me energy? What is the future? Like, but then also like be a T-shaped individual. I'd encourage both of y'all. Sales and marketing. Build it out. Market every day, right? Figure out a way to develop these other skills that like maybe like aren't as rewarded in your, tech role. So, I mean, that would be the kind of the other perspective that I would think about that like as you're kind of like growing, right? That like I think that there's like, because okay, here's another one. I think that there's another human psychology thing about this phenomena. Is like people are a lot more, they feel more pain from losing something than they do from gaining something, than pleasure that they get from gaining something, right? So humans are loss averse, right? We don't like to lose shit, right? But at the end of the day, like if it balances out, or like you might ultimately be in a more powerful position. Here's the thought experiment for you, Bruno. Like you might actually be in a more powerful position if you forgot DBT, right? I know right now you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
right? But what I'm saying though is that like there might be a time in your life where you gain all these other skills and there's all this other things where like it feels like that like, okay, I can let that go now. I can let that go. I don't like for example, for me, I feel like the skill that I'm dropping right now is not data engineering. I think my data engineering skills will not atrophy for a long time. But I really feel that the skill that I'm dropping right now is actually Android engineering, which is a skill that I invested like 2 years in 2014 and 2015. So like 10 years ago, I spent 2 years building Android apps, right? And now if you ask me like, hey, Zach, build me a Java app, I would need to rely heavily on ChatGPT. All right. All right. But like, that's because I have not done it in 10 years. right? And like I feel like that's it's kind of like how things like they take some time, right? It really does take a significant amount of time to like really lose it. So I mean, okay, I got one for y'all. Like what are your dreams? What do you want to do? And like what is the future for y'all? Like what motivates you? Like what are the things that you like get you up in the morning? I guess that'd be my final kind of, that's probably our last question for this live, but I'm curious.
Yeah, for me, I think it's always been learning and teaching. I love helping others, like, reach their goals in terms of whatever they want to learn. Like, ever since I was younger, I taught kids like math, and that was always my greatest joy. And then I taught them sewing, and like now I'm teaching analytics engineering, and just like seeing someone's face light up when they finally like understand that concept or something finally clicks and it helps them get one step closer to their goal. So I would love to like teach analytics engineering full time and just like help people, reach their full data potential. That's just something that
I love that.
Love doing.
I freaking love that. I love that a lot. That's like yeah, I love that the teacher archetype. I think for me it's complicated because it's like I love the teacher archetype. That's something that is like really deep in me. But then like I don't know, then because it's so weird for me, because then there's like the side of me that's like, yeah, I need the teacher archetype, but then there's this other side of me that's like I need to be the leader archetype, and that I need to like be like that my calling is not to teach, actually it's to lead. And that's something that like I'm like because I love to teach, and like I'm more like begrudgingly accept to lead, right? I think that's like my like, and I'm like it's a lot. Bruno, what about you? What gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, I think like my dream, what I want to do is like following the line you are of what you are doing right now, because I think there are two things. One, like Madison said too, I like teaching. I like helping people. I like engaging with a community. And before lectures, before teaching, I'm always super nervous. I get super nervous before entering a call. For example, this one too. I'm a very I'm a bit I was a bit nervous, but after that ends, I think okay, that was pretty cool. I want to do that again. It's like going in roller
it gets a
coaster.
little easier, right? It does get a
Yeah,
little easier because it's like I think for me, I've done like 700 hours on camera now, something like that, like
right.
700 live hours on camera, and like I've it definitely gets a little bit easier, but I still feel it, especially when like I feel like when I'm in a boot camp and I'm about to like deliver new fresh content. That's where I'm like, they're gonna hate it. Like my brain, it's weird. My brain always says that. It's like right before I go to teach, I'm like, my brain says that to me. Oh, they're gonna hate it, and I'm like, oh, why, brain? Why are you doing that to me? You know?
Yeah. And the other thing is I like the idea of having something of my own, like building something that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I'm proud of building, and seeing that I left some legacy, something like that.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
so yeah, so I think those two ways.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. I like that. Those are some good visions, y'all. You know, it's like I really like to, that y'all have like some very good answers there, like some really solid, like juicy, like passionate answers, right? Where it's very like I think like the thing for me that I think that the part for me that's been difficult in terms of like trying to discover like what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet is like this idea of like, I know I'm a good engineer. All right. I know I'm pretty good at sales and marketing. I know I'm pretty good at teaching. Like those three things I feel like pretty solid about. And then it's like, but then the universe is like, no, Zach, what you need to be doing is leading. And I'm like, but that's like not in the list. It's not in the list, right? And I'm like, but then there's like this very strong like call for it, right? And it's like, and I noticed this thing in my life, and this is something that I want to leave y'all with, is this idea of sometimes you get drawn into things that you get drawn into and you're kicking and screaming. Kind of what Bruno was saying here just a second ago. He's like, you know, when I go on these lives and everything, I'm nervous. It's a lot. It's kind of uncomfortable, and I don't know if I like it. But then, like, at the end of it, you're like, I like it, right? And I think for me, that's the thing that I'm coming around to, is like this idea of like, okay, I need to lead this company, I need to grow this team, I need to like do all these things. But then I'm the same way. I'm like, but I don't like it. I don't like it. But then, like, I know, like, if I look at it over some long enough time frame, I'll look back and be like, actually, that was pretty sick, right? Right? And it's like, and there is that. There's growth in that discomfort. There's growth, like that, like kind of that feeling that you have, Bruno, when you go live and then you're out here. Also, that is the growth, right? That is the growth, right? And so chase that, and like I guess that's where, like, even though like I know that I have these three things that I really love, and I know I would be pretty happy doing any one of them, like I'm like, but what about the uncomfortable thing? Right? And I get captivated by that. I think it's like a mental disorder, but it is what it is, you know.
That's probably why you are where you are. You chase the discomfort.
Yeah, chasing the discomfort, right? 100%. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for showing up today. Dude, I can't believe it. There's only 2 left. This is crazy. This is great.
Yeah, good
I'm
luck.
excited. I'm excited. Like, my bed is like literally 2 feet in this direction over here, and I'm like, it's inviting me. It's inviting me, but I know I have a little bit longer to go. But yeah, we have Mark. Yo, what's up, Mark? How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah. Mark's gonna be on the next one here. He's talking about like startup and big tech and data stuff. But anyways, Mark, yeah, this is Bruno and Madison. We just had a good live on DBT and analytics engineering, and got really philosophical and deep there at the end. But like, it is what it is. That's what happens when I'm 22 hours deep in a live stream. So we have Shubham, right? Shubham might need the new link.
We received that email. I joined here a little bit early, but it's kind of wild that you've been doing this for like 22 hours already.
22 hours, man. Stream. It's been, and like, I'm still lucid right now. Like, I'm getting there. I can tell I'm starting to be a little slower. I'm starting to get a little bit like a little bit stuttery, a little bit. I'm not as like sharp as a tack, like, but like, it is what it is, like, it's a crazy one. Like I'm hoping for like, I'm only going to take like a short nap too, because I know I can't, like, if I try to sleep like the whole day right now, that would be very dumb. Right? It's like, I just have to power through it, and just like, essentially I'll sleep for like 1 or 2 hours, wake up, go walk the dog, and just like get on with my life, right? Like, but like, it's gonna be a weird day. Friday, I signed up for today being a weird day, right? I already signed up for that. So, let's try to get the where is Shubham? See if we can get him in here.
All right, I gotta head out to my
for
my
sure
morning workout.
Have a good one, dude. Like, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, like when I ask you like what gets you up in the morning, I'm like, what gets you up so early in the morning? Like, the only reason I'm awake right now is because I stayed up all night. All right.
I get up, roll out of bed, and go straight to the gym usually, and then that's what wakes me up. All right. Good luck with the last 2 hours.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope you have a good time. Have a good Friday.
You too.
Yeah, for sure. Where is?
Thanks, Zach, for the invite, and just want to thank some feedback in the comments. Some friendly feedback there. I need to improve my way of explaining my ideas here, but that's something I will work on. But thank you.
Yeah. You're doing great, man. Like, for sure. Oh, there's Shubham. Awesome, man. Like, Bruno, thank you so much, man. We did great. Crushing it here. Crushing it. Awesome. We got the new staff.
Hey,
how's it going, Shubham? Dude, nice to like meet you like on a video call, right? And like, we are 2 left. All right, 2 left. I'm
Yeah,
getting
crazy,
there.
man.
I'm
You did it
getting.
to 24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Honestly, like, because one of the things I realized after doing this, right, is, oh look, there's my alarm to wake up. That's amazing. Okay. Anyways, one of the things I realized about doing this in particular is like there is a very large amount of value of just speaking with a bunch of super knowledgeable people back to back to back to back to back, because then you see the patterns. You see the patterns
Yeah,
between people
definitely.
too, right? And you're like, oh, that person was talking about this person was talking about, and it's like, and I was like, whoa, dude, this is freaking, it's nuts. It's nuts.
What's the
Like,
top pattern you've seen so far then?
I mean, there's a
Don't leave
bunch.
us
Like,
hanging.
I mean, there was one, so we've been talking a lot about AI, right? Talking a lot, like there's been a couple different patterns. Like there was a lot in this last one. I guess I want to talk about that one while it's top of mind. So we had a conversation with Tobiko and Andrew that was like 5 hours deep. And then the last conversation with Bruno and Madison was similar in some ways, because it's a lot about analytics engineering, DBT, SQL mesh, all that kind of stuff. And like, and one of the things that's like interesting about those technologies that I'm recognizing is that those technologies are doing the same thing that Iceberg and Delta are doing. They're just kind of merging. They're just becoming the same technology, right? And it's just like, and there's just like a lot of like, it's helping me like recognize a little bit more of these like Pepsi Coke situations where people are like copying each other's features. And then like, I think there's this whole other thing. There was one line that like just kept coming up, is just like this whole idea of like, learning AI is not optional, like that, like you have to learn AI. Like it's a skill that is coming, and that is just going to keep getting crazier. And like, even though that was interesting, because like it was more of a balanced take. I feel like there's more of a balanced take, because I think there's some people who actually say that we're getting into the trough of disillusionment with AI, that it's like, we're not actually going into it's AGI is far away, OpenAI is not the number one model anymore. Like, I don't know, I feel like there's some interesting things about like that versus like, where things were during the Chat GPT moment and now, like how there's like a kind of a delta between that stuff. And I think that there's like a lot that like has been going on, and like it's insane. It's really insane. But like I've been loving all of these talks. There was one more around like what is going to stick around. So like this is great. Before I give my answer on this, I want to hear what y'all are going to say. So imagine it's 30 years from now, right? 30 years from now. And everything about AI comes true, right? Everything about AI comes true. Everything that like you could imagine about AI comes true. And what do we have left? What do we have left as humanity? Say AI can do every job. What do we do? What do we do as humanity? Mark, can you go first on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this actually, because I think something that is like embedded into the social contract between like governments and society is that there is this productivity where humans is an element of that productivity, generating that. And thinking from like the business perspective, where VCs are pumping up so much money into this, is they see, wow, bottleneck is the humans. If you have an AI that doesn't need to be paid beyond its compute, you have an AI that can work 24/7. It doesn't need benefits and all those things. It's kind of a scary kind of math for them, and why they're putting so much money into it. And so I think what really needs to happen is, I think it really goes to that philosophical kind of approach of like, what does it mean to be productive? What does it mean to be kind of a human in this space? That's like worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that we're like hyper productive and we have all these like amazing kind of like advancements in society. But it's kind of hard to kind of think out 30 years, because we can't even think 1 year out. Even the experts can't even think 1 year out where AI is going to be. We're constantly hearing like the new AI model does this, the new AI model does that. And I think what's really different about this space is like, when I was in data science, we heard that a lot from like non-technical people, but now I see like AI researchers being like, whoa, this is crazy. And then 6 months later, again, whoa, this is crazy. And so it's been really interesting take when you see the experts also kind of like taking back as well.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Shubham?
Yeah, I think there's also a social element to it, right? I think at some point of time, people start to resist. Like for example, when metaverse was at its peak, and and COVID was there, people were forced to be inside, forced to be virtual, right?
Mhm.
Forced to adopt a lot of these things. People did that for some time, but eventually, as something kind of opened up, everyone was like, "Hey, I don't want to, I don't want to live stream. I don't want to be in person. I want to do in-person events. I want to go out and go to a concert and things like that." I think there will be a point where humans will eventually resist to a like an uh, do this from at least from a social point of view. People don't want to just connect on videos and chats and avatars and stuff like that. But the other aspect is, I mean, the extreme could be as extreme as Matrix, right? You could just live in a pod and and you have everything sent to your brain. You don't need to move your finger, right? So I don't know where it will be from in between, but it'll definitely interesting to see.
It's funny you bring up the Matrix thing. I just saw this ad for a ring. So I have an Aura ring. This new ring basically never has to be charged because it's charged off your body heat 24/7. And I'm like, we got AI, we got this. This is like too close to the Matrix.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
insane. I love that. I might have to get that, dude. That's amazing.
I,
It's
I
like,
actually pre-ordered it right away when I saw it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah. It's amazing. Not having to plug it in, dude. It's just forever there, dude. That's freaking
Yeah.
cool. Like, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. There's like, I mean, there's so much of these like different things that are coming together, right? And I think one of the things that like has been like kind of nerve-wracking with all of this stuff is like, okay, like how do we like how do we keep like building a life, right? And keep, like keep building skills, right? And keep building the what we need to do. If it's like if that's the ultimate end state, like what's the purpose of what we're doing right now? What's the purpose of
yep.
like learning airflow? Or like what's the purpose of like, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like I would rather, I don't know, my personal opinion, I would rather like make art or like paint and
Yeah,
set it on fire, or like do some, do some other stuff. I feel like tech skills, it feels like learning tech skills is this like kind of deep investment in the future, whereas like if you know that that's the end state, then it's like it's more about being present, right? It's more about like
yep.
it's more about investing in today than it is about investing in tomorrow, right? And it's like
I think
I
a
think
lot of optimism has gone away from this. Like in 10 years back, you would learn tech, because you were optimistic to solve some problems, optimistic to, connect people or do something that will improve the life of. And now, if you look at it, the best case scenario, the optimism has gone. The best case scenario, you're sitting in your room, wearing a VR glass, and not lifting your finger. I mean, that is not inspiring in any case, right? To work towards.
Mhm.
So that's the optimism part which is lacking from most of these AI launches. If you look at Apple's, that glass that launched, right? It was just like something out of a fiction movie where, hey, you don't have to do anything. You'll probably wear this heavy glass and talk through it. Why? I mean, why would I talk to somebody wearing a glass where I can just talk directly, right?
Mhm.
So those are the things I think we have to definitely work through this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
I
was.
think something, oh, go ahead.
I was watching this reel from Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was saying that like, in the future we're gonna pay people to like take a walk with us. Like it's like, and something that feels so foreign right now, but it's like that like we will get to a point where we value these like these real experiences so much that like it's like that's what like we will put our money like there to like have that happen. And I'm like, that still seems a little bit, I don't know, that still seems a little much. It's like, I did the whole coffee walks with Zach series, and like I don't know, like I feel like I could do that till the end of time. But like I mean, but, yeah.
No, if you look at some societies like Japan, if you look at it, they spend like last 40 years building their country,
Mm-hmm.
getting into just work, and like there is a situation there. People actually are so lonely that they would probably go ahead and maybe rent someone to have a dinner with, right? This is a reality. It's not like it's not happening right now. Just that, and if you look at it, and their birth rate is like lowest. Their overall, population is on the decline. Nobody wants to get married. Nobody wants to have kids. It's just work, 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 and then eventually they're like, okay, nothing else is there. They feel guilty to take a, you know, vacation, because they said they are so obliged towards their, you know, culture of the working and their companies. So I mean, the extreme is already proven to not work, right? If you are just doing this, you're basically losing on a lot of social elements of life.
One thing I want to highlight too is like my background, even before I got into tech, was like sociology. And so
Mhm.
that's always like kind of painting a lens on everything I look at for technology. And one thing we have to always ask is like, what's the externalities of this? There will always be externalities, even throughout the amazing benefits. And I think
Mhm.
that conversation is missing among a lot of tech people because AI and all of this benefits us greatly immediately right now. I mean, you're already looking like my day's way easier coding because of this, right? My skills are worth way more because of this right now. And so I think a lot of conversations is centered around these positive aspects of it, but who is it being built for? Who is being left out of the equation? And so when we have these shifts, we can weather the transitions and have the buffer to make sure that we're comfortable enough to figure out what's the next best thing. There is a whole group of people who will not weather this well and will be in a lot of pain through this transition. Even if it does get better eventually, that transition period is going to be much harder for some people than for others.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, like, it's like one of the things that I've always been wondering about with that. I guess like one of the things that I've always been thinking about is like, okay, what is one of the intangibles here of like, okay, what are the things that are very difficult for AI to do? And like, I think a big one is going to be like, well, like, what about like build community, build brand? I think that's like, it's one of the things that like the longer and longer I see AI, the more and more I'm like, damn, I'm grateful I make content. I'm so happy I make content because there's like, and I'm so happy I made content before AI, so people know I'm like already real. You know, I'm not like a, you know, I'm not Zach GPT. I'm like actual Zach, right? And so there's like this, like there's, and I think that there's that intangible of like, I don't think that, you know, AI is going to compete with me being me, right? There's like this kind of like
Yeah.
I'll have my, you know, at least that, right, where that will be something that will be an asset that I think is interesting. And I think that's one of the things about like the new future kind of economies. We'll have like even more of that. Like, I think it's kind of terrible though, because I also think that like branding in its own right is like, you know, like for example, I don't think that like everyone should have a brand, right? Like everyone should have like a deep, crazy social media brand. I just don't think that that would be like a healthy way of doing society, because I actually think that that is like, you know how like the world kind of looks at China with its like social credit score and all that stuff, and they're like, ooh, no,
Yeah.
that's bad, that's really bad. But it's like, if everyone is judged by how many fucking followers they have on Instagram, like is that any better? That might even be worse. That actually might even be worse, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but like, so that's where it's like complicated. But I guess it's like it's definitely an asset that I am grateful that I have in this AI world, right? And but it's like at the same time, like I don't know, like what like for other people that really like have the skills are the big thing for them. Skills are their path to livelihood. They can't just like ride on like Databricks brand sponsorships, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, okay, what do they do, right? And it's like, and I also feel like it's this conversation is complicated because it's like you can't fast forward life 30 years because some of these things that we're talking about here are probably 2050 or 2060, right? Even if, and that's still an if, right? It's still an if, maybe not, right? Maybe not. Maybe we go into another nasty AI winter. Like you never know. Like it's one of those things that like it could totally get smashed here too, right? Where it's like, and that's not like, and we and like there could be just a giant freaking kind of like plateau that we just can't
Yep.
deliver on anymore. You know, like I mean, what do you think about that, Shubham? Like, how do you think this is going to impact like data engineering in particular?
Data engineers already like kind of changing a lot with this. I think the speed of execution is one big thing, right? Nowadays, like even internally, working in Amazon, we've like adopted a lot of these AI, processes where, the things that we would do it like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? We are doing it very quickly, right? things we will not touch eventually, like building UIs and stuff. We are just doing it because it's much easier to do it. Like Amazon Q has some like coding interface. You can build a UI framework, or there are tools that you can just go ahead and build some frameworks. So I think the speed of execution is changing, and because of that, you're basically doing a lot of, like, for example, you could do a similar amount of work which was previously done by a 10% team with a 4% team or a 5% team, right? I think that's where I think entry level in data engineers having struggle, getting into the market, because
Yeah.
a lot of that work is kind of getting, fast tracked by AI. But there's obviously this balance, like
Yeah.
how much you can take right now.
Do you know what's blowing my mind? What you just said is something that Steve said, is something that Toby said, is something that what, a couple hours ago, something that Jocko said, and something that Maria said. Like that exact thing of like the rung, that bottom rung of the ladder is kind of getting like is getting chopped off, or like doing it's very weird. It's a very weird and disconcerting thing of like, okay, well, if we just don't have junior engineers, well, do we
Yeah,
just like
I
do we
mean,
just like
seriously.
wait it out? Like, it's like we have to grow junior engineers. That's like not that's not optional, like.
Yeah, I mean, since I started posting on LinkedIn, a lot of junior engineers reach out to me. Hey, I'm doing this master's from this college, and hey, I'm trying to break into this field. I have this resume, and I look at those resumes. They have like good resumes, right? They are good,
Mhm.
like content. People have a good portfolio, and it's still very hard. Part of it is also the job market, but part of it is also like nobody is basically taking that bet, right? Hey, previously companies used to take that bet. Hey, I'll hire about 100 people, train them, on my processes. Probably 20 would stay and just grow into that senior level. Five would be my top performers someday, right? So that bet, do, don't a lot of organizations don't want to take that long bet. They're like, okay, hey, right now we can do this with this, probably add
Mhm.
some more resources, probably get someone who's already worked on this, right? So that long term bet is kind of getting uh, you know, not done by most of the organizations.
Yeah.
I think one key aspect of it though is that there's too many unknowns with this. They're trying to figure out what this new AI workflow looks like, and
Yeah.
adding another junior engineer to that adds another unknown. And so I think they're really trying to de-risk that. Not to saying I still have the same fear, like what we're gonna do when we need like more engineers, right? Because we didn't train them up.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that picks back up again once this new kind of workflow with AI and development starts to kind of solidify. Like what's the software development lifecycle? That's completely changing right now. I was actually at a conference a couple of weeks ago. Andrew Ng was speaking, and he was talking about how what he's seeing with a lot of the companies is that before, enterprise used to be able to do maybe 2 or 3 POCs a year. Now they can do 20, and it'll be the same price as if they did 3. And so they can take way more bets and figure out what actually works and what's actually personalized. And so he's saying like the software development lifecycle has been upended, and all the assumptions have been kind of blown up. And now that every enterprise is trying to figure out what does this kind of look like? I mean, you kind of already talked about it, said like it took us 3 weeks to do something. Now it takes like a day. And so yeah, the whole business math is completely, no one knows what they're doing right now. Things are moving really fast.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. And like, I mean, I think that, yeah, there's a lot there, because I think there's like, I guess that's one of the things that I actually have been kind of disappointed with some of the engineering leadership in big tech around this, and like their messaging and wording about stuff, where it's like some of the things that Zuck has said, where it's like, yeah, no, mid-level engineers, like, yep, AI is just going to do all of it, right? It's like, I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, even if that's what you truly believe, right? Just think about it. Just think about it. Just for a little bit. Just think about it. Like, you have what, you 5,000 of them that report to you. Like, it's like, come on. There's a side of it
Yeah.
that's like, is that really the right way to like do leadership, right? Where it's like, I mean, maybe that's like, they want to be really ruthless like that, but then there's like there's a lot of different angles to things, right? Where like, I'm with you on that. There's a lot of like still confusion about like what this is actually changing and what is actually happening. And I mean, I see it in my own company. I mean, I see that like I'm able to just deliver so much faster and be able to like create so much more value and products and just all this different stuff just like without even having a team. Like it's like very strange to me. Like it's like I'm like I don't need like my full stack people. Like really, it's just me, right? Because it's like I can windsurf and cursor it, dude. Like it's crazy. It's like really crazy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're starting to see there's a lot of startups now too. It's like they have like this crazy millions of AAR with like 5 people teams, and they execute it very quickly. And that's I mean, seeing in the startup I'm currently at, we're staying as lean as possible for roles, because we can do way more with less and show value and keep our kind of burn rate a lot lower.
Yeah, it's wild. That's like the just be like, I mean, then it's like, I mean, can we just do that? Can we just like, Mark, here's what we need to do. Found an AI startup, bootstrap it to 100 million ARR with 2-person team in 1 year, and then just never work again.
Deal. Let's do it. Shobnam, you're in this too. We're starting a company right now.
Yeah. Let's just be done, right? Be done, right? It's like Jesus.
If anyone in the chat is an investor, let me know.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's build it out, right? I mean,
I mean, this is already, if you look at it, a lot of companies have already like on-call stuff, right? A lot of on-call pain was previously seen as, hey, this is a cost that we have to bear, right? Now I was talking to a friend who works at Microsoft. They're saying, hey, our co-pilot internally is basically taking care of a lot of on-call action items. They're just, if a ticket comes and there is some resolution, they'll probably go ahead and do that. That agentic model is being applied on that. So you're starting with on call. So okay, your day-to-day pain is kind of reduced. Then you are, recently saw they launched a like a site reliability agent, where you basically Azure launched it actually. So it will go and look at your infrastructure and just do that. So SRE as a job is obviously that's what your job is. So I mean, eventually you will launch an BI agent, right, where you're building dashboards and you already have they look at lookers, the Google Looker interface, right? It's already doing a lot of stuff there. So I mean, it is getting scary to a point where hey, what I'm going to be doing in next 5 years. But yeah, right now I think for most of the people who are already there in that chain, it's probably easy. But I do feel out for a lot of people who are trying to enter that chain, like graduates. Like if you look at US graduates right now, one of the lowest placements, right? They're not getting enough jobs that to start their careers. That's a big concern overall.
Yeah, I mean, my little brother is actually in the 2nd year of college, and I'm talking to him. Like, he's like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know, but all I know is you need to figure out how AI fits into everything and use it. And if the teachers tell you not to use it, still use it because this is the only way you'll be prepared to know, like, be best positioned to figure out what thing to do with XYZ." But he wanted to study computer science, and now he's like completely questioning that.
Yeah, even I don't know what will be education in this world, right? Why would you go to a college who spent 200K to learn something where AI would eventually do that, right? I mean, what's value is going to have these kind of formal educations, right? And already a lot of formal education is like optionally great. You are from this college, okay, but now do this, right? uh, but eventually next in 10 years, where it will stand, that's at least especially in the computer science domain. Like I know there's still value in like medical and stuff like that. You still want to learn basics of it.
Yeah.
The stakes are higher there, but at least for now, computer science overall doesn't really look very optimistic.
I think one signal that I'm looking for is when does edge AI kind of embedded AI start becoming really powerful? So like AI and robotics. Because then that's when it starts going to the physical world as well.
Yes.
And then so like the jobs, like the trades and things like that start becoming in question as well. That for me, I think that's going to be what I'm putting my bet on as a tipping point in my crystal ball of looking into the AI future.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think that there's like when you one of the things that I also feel like is kind of an interesting thing here is that like I think there's like this laser focus on coding for some reason, because that's just where there was the first win. I don't know, like it's like, what other AI company has come out besides Cursor that's worth $1 billion or more? Like, that's it. It's it. It's like, okay, cool. Like, cool. So we have one success in AI, one, right? And so that's why software engineering is fucked, right? And it's like, but what about like everybody else, right? I don't know. It's like, it just feels like that like a lot of that other stuff is coming. It's just Cursor came out first because of the proximity, right? Of like AI developers are also software engineers, right? And that like, you know, the people at ChatGPT, OpenAI guys, they are also like, you know, they write pretty good code themselves. You know, it's like this kind of thing of like, it's their it's just an extension of those models already, right? So it's like, it's very interesting that like there's is it like, because I have a hard time believing that it's like software engineering is dramatically the most vulnerable role in the economy. Like, and even though that's how it's literally portrayed, like that's how it's portrayed. It's 100% that's how it's portrayed right now. And it's like, no, like I don't believe that. I honestly, there's jobs out there that are way less creative, way more predictable, way more like, you know, and it's just like there's it's complicated, right? I don't know. I guess that's the main thing where it's I think there's like this interesting, I guess my critique of it is like, it's the critique of like the media here and a critique of the portrayal of all this stuff, right? It's not all gloom and doom, you know, like it's like it's disruption, right? And I mean,
where I think a lot of it's shifting towards is like syntax and code. That's all being abstracted away now. Similar to how you have like C, like lower level languages. I'll never learn that. I got Python, but or SQL, whatever you want to put in there. I think it's going to be moving towards like where the architecture patterns, what are the kind of algorithm patterns that you can utilize and basically using the AI to like maintain a system rather than maintaining a service or maintaining a specific like file in a code. And so I think the systems thinking and like the architects are really going to be well positioned kind of in this kind of AI future.
Yep. I mean, there's also the point where what are we focusing on with as the first things that we want to do with AI, right? Like, for example, if you look at VO3, right, recently launched, you basically now can generate like a movie kind of interface, right? When some random image, you describe a character and he'll speak some lines for you, right? And same is the case with like image generation, video generation. I mean, we are targeting things that we actually like to do. Like people like to paint, people like to create art. We are targeting that instead of like, hey, build something which will clean my house, right? Maybe that's more use, or build something that will cook healthy food for me, right? Things like that. I mean, we have just focused on uh, replacing more more skills that are dear to a human, like driving. Okay, I understand it, transportation staying still, but we are not focused on actual problems in like what is the most hated thing a human does in the day, and can we fix that with AI? I think that's not the approach. Approach is, what's the high value skill that you have? You have high value skill which pays more. It pays more to like be a software developer. Let's target that. Let's you would pay more to an actor and to create good content. Let's target that. So I think that's the approach most of the companies are taking, and that kind of, it's eventually is basically that, hey, it's dragging your income down, because now if you look at bankers, right, in few years back they were the hot shots, right? They used to learn the most, and then this banking crisis happened and financial crisis happened, and now they are like, okay, general people working their jobs, right? They're not considered a hot shot. And same is the case with, I think, software engineers and stuff like that. Eventually it will be at a point where this is just a profession that people do. It's not fancy. It's not, doesn't pay you $500,000 for the year, right? In most cases, I think that's where we are heading towards, at least in the near future.
I mean, definitely. I totally agree with all that. So one of the things, Mark and Shubham, you both have been growing your careers. You both have been building some interesting careers in kind of like the data and data space. And you like picked two different ways of doing it, right? So Shubham, like you've been at Amazon for like 7 years. You are not the longest tenured Amazon person. Well, you currently work there. So you are the longest tenured current Amazon employee in the live, but not the longest tenured Amazon employee on the total live, because we had Steve Huen, right? And he worked at Amazon for 18 years. So like you got 11 more years to go, bro. Then you can lap him. All right.
I know a lot of people who are 15 plus. I currently work with them a lot of. I
Yeah,
think I can talk about that a bit. Amazon,
yeah.
why like I was first of all, I actually started my career as an analyst. I was hired as from Deloitte. I
Mhm.
joined as an analyst. I was very disappointed. I would say I really liked software development. I used to love UI development, and in Deloitte, when you get hired, they basically do a raffle out, and you just, hey, this guy will go to work on big data, or this guy will go to work on testing. So I got selected to be worked on information management. They used to use Teradata and Informatica, and I got a training into 2 months to work on that.
Nice.
I worked there 11 months, and I was like, hey, I can't do this. And, I mean, that's not the scope of my tech skills that I can bear with. So I joined a startup, Paytm. It's an Indian based startup. I was used to work in India actually that one time. Uh,
Mhm.
Paytm was like a startup. India started a lot of digital stuff in that age, 2014, 2015. So they were kind of giving like payment utilities as a starter. They had like 5 million users, and then in 3 years they went to like 250 million users. We got funding from everyone, like SoftBank, and Alibaba was a partner and all that stuff. So that kind of gave me I worked on Spark in 2015, Hadoop, Hive, all the stuff. Very early user of Databricks. And when I came to Amazon in 2017, and that's where I was like, okay, hey, Amazon was still Oracle, still a lot of SQL. So with ads, I've had 3 years, kind of worked, and that's where I got opportunity to grow. Like, hey, whatever I've learned in my startup, like Spark and Hadoop and all that, I've got to apply on a very large scale. Got very successful doing that. Got to a
Mhm.
senior in 2019, and then I said, okay, let's do something else. Let's find us. So Amazon has this benefit that you can just context switch if you don't, if you're just bored, right? So I was bored with ads. I was already done good stuff there. I just wanted to do more from ground up. So I joined like an organization, Flex, that was basically Uber for Amazon. You can deliver packages by signing up as a driver, and they were just starting off. 2018 was the conception of the program. In 2019 they had nothing, no data engineering. So when they're it's like working in a startup. You have an AWS account and you just build it from scratch. So last 5 years been doing that. Now it's in a stage, okay, we are worldwide. A lot of traffic is there and stuff that happens. So I mean, that's where I don't get bored, because I get to do a lot of stuff which will probably I'll not be able to do in any other FANG company. I will still be doing just SQL, just pipelining work. Wherein in Amazon, I mean, this is something that a lot of people, that's why they stay, because they get to switch context so easily, that it's easier to just reset yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's interesting that like I realized is that like in 2017 I was working at Meta, or I guess at Facebook, as a data engineer too. And like I think one of the things that we did differently to grow our careers, Shubham, is you were like you like the internal transfer, and I like
Yep.
the external transfer, right? And
Yep.
I'm like I'll just go to a new company, go to a new thing,
Hmm.
right? And it's like and it's very interesting, like about like how there's just so many different ways that you can go about doing things, and that like
Yep.
I don't know, like sometimes like I think that there's a lot more peace in the way that you do it, because it's like, when people look at your resume, they're gonna be like, that guy's loyal. That guy is at Amazon. That guy's landed some impact. And then they'll be like, they'll look at mine and be like, dude, that guy is chaotic. That guy is like all over the place. Like, what is that? What is that guy even doing? Like, but then it's like, it's weird though, because it's like, then like, I don't know. Job hopping is so weird because it's like, there's a side of it that's like, you're incentivized to do it because like you can straight up get promoted faster. And then there's like a side of it that's like,
Yep.
okay. But then there's also the side of like, yeah, it has this like this interesting curve where it's like initially beneficial and then it kind of like flattens out, and it can even be slightly negative towards like your mid
Negative.
to late career,
Definitely.
right? Yeah.
I think a
And
big piece of
I
that is
actually,
like when you get to that more staff level, you need
mhm,
to start like
yep.
taking account for like the mistakes you made or the tech debt you made. And so if you're
mhm.
constantly shifting, you never have the opportunity to fix your tech debt. And I think when
Yep.
you're getting to that way more senior level, it's really about re-engineering existing code and a lot of things for that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, when I become senior in 2019, I just had like 6 years of experience, right? At that point of time, the first thing that came into my mind when my promotion was announced, hey, what will I do next? I've not seen principals, too many principal data engineers in Amazon,
Mhm.
and I don't want to be a manager. Uh, Even if I go outside, I'll probably doing the similar work. What do I do from here, right? That was a question that came in my mind, and I don't, and was still like, I don't want to be a manager with 6 years of experience. I can still, and also like, I have a lot of respect for people who are managers, but there's that people who have worked and done their part, and 10 years, 12 years, and when they are managers, they generally have a better success with handling teams, handling roadmaps, building for the future, right? So I really wanted to be IC, and that's where I think I just try to do something which I have more control of. I don't want to be told that, okay, do this. I would probably want to set the roadmap, set the design, set the foundation of it. And a lot of people seek that outside. You go to a startup and do that. And I was fortunate enough that I found something internally to do that, and it was successful. And the other perspective, a lot of friends of mine who have been Amazon long term, 10 plus years, the other part, experience, like, yeah, I used to work in India, I came to US, I'm in Seattle for like last 5 years, right? And now people who have worked in 5 countries in 10 years with Amazon, they go to Berlin, they go to London, they go to India, they go to any part of the world, and it is easier for within Amazon to go around and work for different teams and get various experiences. So that's the thing. People take a different path. It's more driven what you want to do, what's your like focus, and what basically lets you going, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big one. I think that's one of the things that's nice, and I think that's one of the good things. I think a wisdom in the way that you looked at it, Shubham, is like you're like, I like Amazon culture, but I want to change teams. I want to like stay engaged and stay excited, right? And I think that was something that I think that was one of when I look back on my career, and I was like, I actually loved Meta's culture. I just had like a toxic manager, and I think one of the things back then, like my my emotional processing and everything was a little off. Where I was like, I'm like, I think I would have still excelled at Meta, like actually better than at Netflix, because I actually jived much better with the culture at Meta than I did with the culture at Netflix. And but I ended up going there because I was like, I just felt like, oh my god, dude, like I hate this place, right? There
Yep.
was a side of it that I was not thinking as rationally as I could have, like there's definitely
Yep.
that for sure.
And I think also the challenge, when I became senior in 2019, most of the data engineering in Amazon was still predominantly SQL, right? And I was really wanted to change that. Wanted to set up a team where data engineers are not just doing SQL. At this point of time, most of my team members as data engineers probably do like 20-30% of SQL, and more about infrastructure, more about code, more about services, self-service, building platforms, right? So we've seen the transformation inside Amazon as well. Previously, if you look at it in 2018, when if you interview for Amazon for a data engineering role, you'll not be even tested for coding. You'll just be tested for SQL, and that has changed a lot. We have like influenced that change as well. Now you would probably have to have similar coding skills as an SDE, At least the level is like if you're an L6 D, you should have L5 level SD coding skills. The package, comp really changed a lot with this new requirement. Data engineers now somewhat around 10-15% down from SD, where it was like 50% at some point of time. So
Yeah.
that change kind of really helped me going, because I had a thing to prove that hey, you can do more. Just don't have to do SQL only, right? You just have to don't be like this machine of who just writes SQLs and gets things done. And this is the only way to do it. That was not the case.
Love that. I love that. So I'm curious, Mark, for you, like, in the startup game, like it's, you get a whole different, I don't know, it's just a whole different set of cards.
Different feel.
So very different. Like, I mean, how do you feel like you went about growing your career in the startup space?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me was that I'm not trying to build like a technical career. Technical aspect is a huge kind of component and pillar of it, but I want to build companies. I want to build basically like product companies and startups myself. I've tried before, failed miserably before as well, along with many other founders. But the quickest way to kind of get that is to join startups. And so I intentionally, instead of being like, oh, I want to work on this problem, I want to work on a smaller and smaller and smaller startups. I've gone from a Series D to a Series B, now to the startup I'm currently at. I joined as the first employee, and now we're at Series A. And basically, I wanted to see like, how do you grow from its idea to getting market adoption? But the thing is, though, is like, how do you get into those roles? Because you need to be some of the best people. If you only can make one hire, right, or a couple hires, you have to be one of the best people possible who's willing to not go to like the Amazon or Googles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so technical skills was the way I was able to really quickly show I can provide value for you really quickly. Now, the interesting thing, though, is for startups is that if you want to be a data engineer in a startup, you're most likely not going to be coming in early. Most companies do not need data talent until a couple years afterwards. And the big reason is that you have software engineers who's building the product. The product is way more important. That's going to drive things. And they can spin up a Postgres database or something quick on AWS and get by and figure it out. It's not until about 2, 3, 4 years later when they're like, okay, we have enough users and customers. We now want to understand how this all works. We need a data team analyst. Oh, we need to replicate the data over. Even then, they'll probably have software engineers build that replication pipeline. And once they start feeling the pain, that's the way they start kind of bringing in data engineers. So my current role is really weird, where it's still heavy on data engineering from like a strategic standpoint, because I do a lot of sales and marketing, and like bringing our data engineering product to market. But like, I'm not coding as much because it's just not required at the startup. So that's something to be very, very mindful of if you do the startup path, is you have to choose the right startup. What stage is that? I think one of the best stages, if you want to go into startups, I think Series C, because you start having a lot of the structure of a traditional business while still having the small feel of a startup. And that's the stage where I see a lot of companies start really care about data a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, I'm that way. It's so complicated because it's like I'm a data engineering education company who doesn't even have my own data the right way, and I'm always like, I'm ashamed because I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, I know it's not going to make that big of a difference, right? It might make a little bit of a difference, but like, that's actually something what I did recently was I made a read replica of my production instance. And I'm actually just having my students just like, if they want to build my data model for me, I'm like, go ahead. No, like, you can do it for me. Like, and I'm like, I know someone, I know that there's going to be at least 5 students in my current cohort that are hacking on that problem, and may the best data model win, and then I'll just adopt it, right? And then we'll go from there, right? It's going to be sick. I think that's like Hey, Shubham, like when you're in Amazon and like, you're going senior and like, you're on the track to principal or whatever, like how are you finding opportunities for leadership? How are you finding opportunities to like, because you have to flex to get there, right? I mean, I think it's so crazy. Does Amazon not have staff?
No, they basically have senior data engineers and data engineers, and you hired as like an L4 data engineers if you're out just straight out of college, and
Yeah.
then you go to like a L5 data engineer,
Yeah.
and then there's have L6 senior data engineers. I think 99% of that stops there. After L6, most of the people kind of go to like manager if they want to be a manager and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Or if it's a terminal kind of a role, you can stay L6 for forever. And there are few teams who would have scopes for L7, and that's where people try to get that scope. I think right now that is a bit previously the scope was much lesser with a lot of these teams, and same is the case as Mark mentioned, right? A lot of in you won't believe Amazon kind of still does that. A lot of new organizations, SDEs are kind of doing most of the stuff, and once they feel the pain, right, that's where they go and hire some data engineers and stuff like that. And that's what happened with Plex. They started in 2018. Until 2020, people were like doing whatever they were doing, and analysts were doing, PMs were doing queries, and they had one Redshift cluster and stuff like that. But eventually, people feel the pain and they invest in it. I think that philosophy is slightly changing now with AI. That you kind of getting some data persons getting started a bit early in the cycle, because then you can organize it in a way that it goes into some of these processes which needs more data. And the I think for anyone who is growing into L6 or growing into and you want to be an IC leader in these big firms, would have to look at working with the problem statement that has larger impact. For me, it's like, hey, I'm working on a program which has like delivering across the world. That's basically this is a program which Amazon is focusing on to do same day deliveries, have the right impacts, and that's the focus of getting stuff delivered quickly on time. And so you just find opportunities where you can just fit your problem, you fit your solutions and generate end value for the business. And if you're able to do that, you'll probably get that next level, probably get that L7 principal level as well. But it's a process. You would have to go through it. It's like you have to put in the years, put in the time, put in a lot of effort to go to reach there. I mean, at
Yeah.
some point of time, there were only 10 principal data engineers across the world, and Amazon like has was somewhat like 300,000 400,000 corporate employees. So I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a lot of people don't even attempt in that case, right?
So, I mean, for Steve, right? Steve hit principal, right? But
Yeah.
he was at Amazon for 13 years. Right.
I mean, that's quite possible. Quite one of my directors recently retired, and he was there for like 15 years. 15 years straight of working. There are. I mean, that's why I think a lot of people who come inside Amazon, and then for them for staying this long is not a challenge, because anytime they get bored, anytime they want to do something different, they find a context switch and they continue doing it. And that's where kind of you will see a lot of these people. Hey, why this person is there in Amazon for 10 years? Because he's probably has worked for 5 different teams, 5 different business areas. Everything is different. Everything is so it's kind of easier to go that long route.
Something that kind of calls out my experience, where this is like why I'm so much into entrepreneurship for growing my career and growing kind of my salary base, or wherever you want to like call it, the income for that. Is I remember, not it's not the same as going to staff, but going from regular data scientist to senior data scientist, I grinded so hard to make that happen. And the amount of effort I put, I got like a 10% raise, which was like great, with way less effort with my own side hustle. I I was able to make way more with way less effort, and actually controlled that destiny. And so for me, that stuck with me. I was like, ooh, do I really want to chase promotions, or do I want to chase skills that allow me to be a better entrepreneur? And I imagine, Zach, that's kind of a similar math you've seen for yourself now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Yeah, I mean, it makes me look back at some of the time in my big tech career where I was like, dude, why did I grind so hard? Why did I do that? Why did I do that to myself? Like, I'm like, because it's like, I mean, honestly, like right now, I could ask myself the same exact question, but for a different reason. But but at the same time, I feel very great right now. Actually, I feel very like, I mean, I think there's. Yeah, I mean, well, I think that that's one of the things. I have a prediction about the future of employment as well. I think that there's this whole thing of like, where it comes back to, I was talking about like the brand, right? Where it's like, if you can build a brand and you can be recognized, and then it's like freaking like, why would you ever work for anybody? Like, I know that there's like a thing where it's like, if you can do your own sales, why would you work for anybody? Right? There's like this thing of like, I think that there's like, obviously, if you are on a giant ship and you have a very strong belief that that ship is going to the moon for whatever reason, and or you have a team where like you like, well, where it's like we're and that's why I like the idea of like co-founders, where it's like, if you have a brand, then and you can make your own sales, then like co-founder is great, but like that's, you should be equals, right? I guess it's like it's kind of like in that space, right? It's like you shouldn't
I
really
can
have like a
actually
boss,
answer
right?
that because like I'm not a co-founder and I
Yeah.
grind a lot, but I'm the first employee, so I see a lot of the same things. There's
Mhm.
two things. If I was a co-founder, I wouldn't be paid a salary. There'll be
Yeah.
way more responsibilities for me that I wouldn't have. And so like why am I staying in my role, even though I'm like so into entrepreneurship, is because this is the only role I can see where one, I'm at a startup that I know is going to be successful, especially in the next kind of like 12 months, which is hard to find in itself. And then I report directly to the CEO. And so
Mhm.
I can basically get mentored every single day
Yep.
about how to actually do this and execute this. I think if I was at a different type of job where I was doing a regular 9 to 5, I would be bored out of my mind and probably quit and go do the full-time content creation stuff.
Mhm.
But with like this role, I'm in a unique spot where I'm getting paid to learn how to be a founder. And that is something that's going to be really kind of important. And Ruben put a really great thing: salary over equity. Yes, I treat all my startup options as paper money. They don't exist. It's like monopoly. Um, and so if you go with that mindset, I definitely try to optimize for salary more, but come in early enough where I can get options.
I've always
I think
wondered
that
about, with my own business and my own startup, one of the things that's interesting about it is like I've ebbed and flowed about what the hell I'm supposed to be doing, because there's a side of me that's like, just keep doing boot camps. Because I know if I just keep doing boot camps and I do it right and I do it this year, it'll be good. Next year, it could be double, right? I'm like, what is, but then it's like, I know it's not going to be like $1 billion business though, but it could be like $10 million, right? And it's just me, right? And it's like, I don't know, there's a side of it where it's like, and then make the right bets on other people, right? And then like angel
yeah,
invest and make the right bets
Yeah.
on other people that like, okay, maybe they get the $1 billion thing, and then I get an upside on that. I get an upside on that. There is, because I think that that's one of the things in Silicon Valley that is greatly undervalued, especially in San Francisco. Is this whole idea of like, well, what if you're just like a cash flow rich business, right?
yeah,
And it's like, what if you could just like do other things with it, right? And it's like,
yep.
but it's like if you're cash flow rich, it's like you're not trying to go to the moon. I guess that's like that's kind of their mentality. Or what do you think,
I
Shogun?
think that you have to find a balance. At some point of time, you have to find a balance. For example, with my current job, I have a good pay. I get sufficient time where I can look at some of the personal priorities as well. I have two boys, 5 and 1.5. Right, I love spending time with them. That's the focus of my day after work. Right,
Yeah.
so I mean, at this point of time, if somebody is giving me 100K more, but taking away that time is not valuable to me. So
Mm-hmm.
so you have to find that balance, but also you have to be driven. Yeah, I think if you believe in the thing that you're doing, hey, this is going to impact something, like Mark was saying, right? I am so invested in the value that is being generated by this work. I'll work for salary and I still put in that extra hours. I remember in my Paytm days, I had put in every bit of effort in building it because I believed in that. I used to sit on the same floor as a CEO, and he used to ask me, hey, we want to get this done. I was like, yes, we want to get this done. Nobody's asking you to do it tomorrow, but you're working till 11 p.m. in the night just because you want to get it done faster, right? So you believe in that mission, you believe in that, um, you know, that,
Mm-hmm.
and for Amazon as well, same case. You at some point of time you just believe that, you know, there's so much value in doing this, so much customer having that customer obsession is kind of overused word, but it's still like very core, you know, culture of Amazon. You just do it because this is gonna be so useful for something that you're targeting. And if you have that purpose, yet it, you know, and then you balance it out with your, you know, what you want in life, I think that's that way you can actually have a longer career, I feel.
Yeah, I think that that's a huge part of it is like what type of life do you want? I actually go flip back and forth. That was actually another reason why I took this job is like, do I want to go all in on my business on the mark data, or do I actually want to build a scalable kind of like product company that has venture backing? And this allows me to see what it really takes to do the venture backing aspect of it. And I flip back and forth every month. There's one month where I'm like, I am exhausted. I think a small solopreneur like business that's cash flow and make good money, but I have time, that is like gonna sound great. And there's a next month where I'm like super motivated. I'm like, I think I could actually do this. I think I can make the $1 billion company. And it really comes down to really what life do you want? Because those are two very different lifestyles. And you report to two different direct things. If you do the kind of solopreneur thing, you're on your own. Basically, do you make it? Yes or no, right? And you kind of have to hold yourself accountable. But if you do the VC back route, even if you're the founder, you report directly to your investors and the board. And so it's a different type of challenge that you want. And so it's like, what ceiling do you want basically for your income limit?
Yeah, that's, it's well and probable. I guess because I guess like I look at like those two paths as like where if you join a startup or you found a startup that is like shooting for the moon, like that's like, I don't know, 1 in 20. I don't know, maybe like 1 in and then like but it's like the creator business stuff, like making $1 million a year as a creator, I honestly feel isn't that hard. I don't know. And maybe that's just like my perspective on shit, but like I honestly feel like if you really push and you just post fucking 12 times a day and you make high value content, like you could freaking do it. Like, and that's like but again, it's not like 50% trot, right? It's like instead of 1 in 20, maybe it's like 1 in 10. Right. And it's like, it all depends on especially given where you currently sit, Mark. Like if you had like no brand and you didn't, and you hadn't already proven yourself as a creator already, then obviously it's not 1 in 10. I would actually say that the creator path is harder. Right.
Yep.
So it's like, there's the whole conditional probabilities. Right.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that goes into my head as well all the time is like, I have this brand. How much of this brand is being built around Mark, and how much is being co-opted by the startups I'm at, right? I see this trap with a lot of DevRels. You see a lot of DevRels who come in, who have their own brand, and they get completely co-opted by the company, and then they lose their brand and they kind of start all over because they're seen as like this XYZ person. Thankfully, Chad, who's the CEO at Gable, he's a content creator himself, and so he gets it, and so we both able to like really have a symbiotic relationship where I build my brand and help build up Gable and vice versa.
Dude, Shailene just saying, do you think posting multiple times a day is a good thing? I posted 30 times today. All right. But I mean, that is an anomalous day. I would say shoot for 2 times a day. I don't know. I shoot for 2 times a day on LinkedIn. That's just my perspective. It's like because if you do more, the algorithm penalizes you. So there's no reason to post more than 2 times a day. Like 2 times a day is pretty good everywhere. Like you can pretty much do that everywhere. I mean, I've always wondered about YouTube. You do like 2 long form videos a day, but that's just a lot. That's a lot. But I mean, I guess I did 6 4-hour clips today, so that's pretty good. That's good for the next 3 days to keep that pace going, right? But like, I mean, yeah. So I mean, thank you guys so much. Yeah, we're hitting the last. I need to take a 2-3 minute break here before Matt gets on here in just a second. But thank you guys so much. Yeah, so it's On the Mark Data. Is that your brand? On the Mark
Data.
Yeah, and then we have Shubham. You're on LinkedIn now too, right, Shubham? You're one of those creators that just like came out of fucking nowhere. Like you're just like here, right? You're just like You know, it's like because me and Mark and I I've known Mark for like 4 years, dude. Like and so this is Shubham's
I
freaking.
basically started in January. I've just started.
That's what I'm saying.
posting
That's what I'm
videos.
saying. Like you're like a
Yeah.
2025 creator, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like it's great. It's great, right? Yeah. So amazing. Thank you guys so much. Okay, yeah, Matt is let me get Matt in here. So yo, what's up, Matt? How's it going? I just want you can meet the previous guys. So Matt, Mark, Shubham. We were talking a lot about like career growth and startup and big tech and Amazon and how there's like, what do you say? There was 10 principal engineers in the world or something like that. There's like not very many of them. Principal data engineers in the world. It's like, yeah, it's a weird life right now, right? But anyways, it was a good time, and I have been on this laptop for 23 hours straight. It's pretty great. Like this is it.
Hang in there. Hang in there.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, dude, you got to carry us home. You got to carry us home, Matt.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, have a good one, Triple Man, Mark. You guys are
Okay.
amazing.
Take care, guys.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. Amazing energy, Zach. Only
Yeah,
you can do this. Yeah.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. All right, Matt, how's it going?
You need a bio break or you good?
Yeah, I do. I need to go pee real quick.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Excited to co-op the stream. So I don't know. Let's make this crazy while he's gone. Okay, so let me know what questions you have. I'm Matt Harrison. I like to say I sell snake oil and teach people to tell lies with data. But I'm a Python and data science corporate trainer. So happy to talk about all things related to that. Hello, Ruben. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching.
All right. How's it going?
Okay, that was quick.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm in my bedroom, dude. I'm just been, dude. It's been crazy. It's been so crazy, and like it's like daytime again now. It's been just I want to know like, and this is gonna be a good thing is that like I know I'm gonna take all of these clips because I want to know how many words that I spoke like in the last 24 hours because it's got to be like right up there and like near all-time record. I think that the word cloud here, there's some very good visualizations from the transcripts of these calls, right? I think that are just going to be really freaking awesome, right? So yeah, but anyways, I want to introduce you, Matt. You are like a Python wizard. Like you've written some books on Python, right? You have the yeah, is it an O'Reilly book? I can't remember if you were
yeah, so I can bring my books over here if we want to.
Yeah, definitely bring them over, dude. I love repping authors because writing a book is like, dude, I love the color coding of your books, man. That's like that's a good looking bookshelf, dude. That's like, it's all like freaking organized by color there. That's freaking awesome.
You got to sort by something, right?
Yeah, you got to sort by something.
Yeah. So there was I did see a question in there. They said that I had an NVIDIA cup. So I do stuff with NVIDIA. So there's a question about that. I would say that my audience is focused on tabular Python data. And so NVIDIA has a lot of things in that area. And so I do work with NVIDIA around that, go to like GTC and create content around that. Books. Amazing. So yeah, I've written like 12 different books. So I did I did do an O'Reilly book. So machine learning pocket reference.
Amazing.
I have a pandas book for Pact, and then I've written a bunch of other books as well. So
what book of all the books that you've written is there one that you feel is like your best work of your technical books that you've written? Or the one that you feel like you had the most energy with, or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. My most popular book is this book right here, Effective Pandas 2. And I guess the gist of that book, it's like the third Pandas book I wrote. Yeah. And after doing a lot of training and consulting with pandas, I came to have pretty strong opinions about what pandas should look like and what it shouldn't look like. And so that book, I guess, has a lot of energy around that.
Yeah, man. And it's a very interesting space. I guess one question I would love to hear your opinion on is since you, as a man who's like a published written author on pandas, is there's this debate, between like pandas and polars. Do you have any like horse in this race of like pandas?
I
versus
do have a
polars?
horse in this race.
Oh, you have polars. Oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm so happy. Like, I mean, like, so is there, I feel like that these two different data manipulation options are both very, like, I feel it's very tribal in some ways. I feel like I feel like the polars guys are like pandas guys are like freaking like, in like the 18th century. But then the pandas guys are like the polars guys are like over engineering shit, and they're like, making it too complicated. Like, and I guess like that's if I had to summarize like the way I would like how I perceived this debate on social media, that's how I would say it. But obviously, okay, so you've written books on both. This is great. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm very happy I asked this question right now.
Yeah, great question. I'll pay you later for asking it. Yeah, so pandas versus polars. I mean, I would say that polars has very good marketing, which is pretty good for technical people. And I don't know that there's necessarily headbutting in that area. In fact, like there was a core developer on polars and pandas who worked on both libraries. So it's not like they're antagonistic towards each other. I would sort of say right now we're in this world where pandas, for lack of a better term, is maybe the COBOL or the IBM of data science tooling. And there was a phrase. I'm probably older than a lot of your audience, and there was a phrase during my career that was like, no one ever got fired for buying IBM. If that doesn't make sense, there was a time when IBM was sort of like, we are the mature technology, that we're the boring technology, and when you have a profitable company, you use IBM because they have technologies that work sort of. And so I think so like I said, my career is focused on Python tabular stuff. Python's the most popular language for data science, and I would say AI as well right now. And Python is a slow language, so it's kind of weird for me as someone who feeds my kids teaching Python, but I'll come out and say Python's a slow language. And pandas became one of the most popular libraries because it leverages this technology called NumPy. NumPy is an abstraction that is created in Python that allows us to basically do things at C speeds. So Python, if you make an integer, you have like 25 bytes of overhead for an integer, right? And in C, if you make an integer, you just allocate the space for the integer. And so what NumPy is it's abstraction that allows us to basically say, okay, if we got a bunch of numbers, let's not allocate 20 bytes for each of them. Let's just make a single Python object, but under the covers, we'll have a buffer of 1 million integers or whatever. And if you stay in that NumPy playground, you get C speeds and semantics and memory usage, essentially. And so Pandas built on top of that for data frame manipulation. Having said that, Pandas is super popular. It has a lot of libraries that work within the Python ecosystem. It's kind of what people are learning these days, and it's kind of the safe bet. Having said that, like Pandas also did things, I would say, naively and kind of ignored like 50 years of best practices with databases, where databases have like query engines, they have things like predicate pushdown, and Pandas is just like, I'm just going to naively do these operations to this data. And so at a high level, Polars kind of fixes a lot of the Pandas issues, right? So it doesn't ignore databases. You can think of Polars as a query engine. written in Rust. So again, Python's slow. Polars is leveraging Rust under the covers. And then it has a thin Python layer, I would say much thinner than the Pandas layer on top of NumPy, that allows you to interact with tabular data using semantics that, again, if you stay in this playground, you're going to be operating at Rust speed, but because it's implemented a little bit more intelligently, you can do things like stream to disk and have query execution, and you can be lazy such that you can even say, like, I'm going to read this Parquet file and do these operations with it. And you might have a chain of, whatever, filtering and pivoting and making new columns and doing some feature engineering. And Polars is smart enough that it can actually say, okay, when I run this, I know that you're only using 3 columns from the Parquet file, and there's 20 columns in there. And I know that you're filtering on rows. So it, at the reading the Parquet file, can actually not read all of the data, right? And it can only read the columns that it needs to, and it can skip the rows that it doesn't need to, right? So Pandas would just load everything into memory and then do every operation in lockstep. And Polars can be a little bit more intelligent about that.
So it has that lazy. It's kind of like, because Spark has that, right? That's one of the things when I teach Spark is like, people, they think Spark runs like Python in that way, and it's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't run step by step like that. That's not how it actually, like, it like makes a plan, and then it will kind of figure out what to do next after that. It's freaking, I mean, like, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Like that is really good to, like, I mean, that, like, I had never, like, I guess I didn't actually know. Okay, today I learned this. I did not know that Pandas used NumPy. I did not know that. That's now I know. I mean, that makes sense. That honestly makes a lot of sense of, like, because it's like, it couldn't just be using, like, I guess I had like an even worse case scenario in my brain about Pandas. I thought Pandas was just like a wrapper around like Python arrays or something like that. Like, but it seems like it's a little bit better than that. But it's like, but it still has like the other kind of optimization techniques that could make it better.
Yeah,
but
because it wasn't a Python list wrapper, right? Then that's why it became popular, because it's like, okay, we do get a speed up over pure Python code, right?
Yeah.
So
That's the benefit, right?
Yeah, memory usage and speed wise. But again, it's not super intelligent. Polars is a lot more intelligent. But and a common question. So I was actually at ODSC last week. I was at PyCon last week. I talked about Polars there. So I'm interacting with people who are kind of curious about these technologies, or using them, or thinking about migrating to them. So it's not necessarily for those who are like, oh, I did all this stuff in Pandas, and now do I have to use Polars or that sort of thing. So it's not actually the case that you necessarily need to pick and choose one. Advice that I would generally say to people, if they're looking to use Polars, where you're going to see the biggest bang for your buck in Polars is group bys. So Pandas is quite naive in their aspect. Polars has multi-core capability out of the box. Python, if you don't know, it came out when we only had one CPU, and so Python does have some multi-core capabilities, but it's probably not what a lot of people think it is. But Polars does. And so Polars, like, if you have 20 CPU or 20 cores on your machine, it can make 20 queues, and you do a group by. It's going to say, for each group, I'm going to throw them on their own core. And if one queue for a core exhausts, we can move things to another core, and it can basically like max out your CPUs as it's doing those things.
Yeah.
So you'll see a big speed up there. If you are using Pandas, and you have things like group bys and you want to speed them up, you don't necessarily need to rewrite your code in Polars, because Polars syntax is different. It does require a rewrite, and I would say AI is not really good at Polars right now. We can maybe get into that later if we want to. But Polars and the most recent version of Pandas 2.2, leverage a technology under the covers called Arrow. And so Arrow is, we call it tool agnostic in memory representation for tabular data. And what you can do is, if you've got a Pandas data frame, you can do a 0 copy into a Polars data frame, do your grouping in Polars, get the speed ups from that, and then do a 0 copy, because they're leveraging this Arrow technology, back into Pandas, get your speed up, and stay in the Pandas world, so to speak.
Whoa, that's wild. So now it's like you get essentially, so you get all the performance of Polars then in Pandas on like the most recent version of Pandas, or
not all of it, right? So Polars, because it is lazy, does have a query engine, right? And so it can do like those optimizations that I talked about, where like I'm doing this chain of operations, but at the start I'm reading a Parquet file, and so it can be smart about reading the Parquet file. Pandas is not lazy, and so Pandas, you tell it to do these operations, it just does them as you tell them to do them, right? But like for a lot of things like filtering or maybe just making a new column, not really that much speed difference between Pandas and Polars, right? There is some, but basically that's due to like, there's a very thin layer between the Python and the Rust. In Polars and Pandas, there's a lot more layers between the Python and like the NumPy or the Pi arrow on the bottom. So you do see some speed up there, but again, probably not worth rewriting your code for just doing that. But a lot of people do see a lot of speed ups in things that they can parallelize, right? And so group by is something you can parallelize. So you don't get all of the speed ups of Polars, but you do, like you would get like the parallelization of the group by, if that makes sense.
Yeah. This is a great question by Shalene here, actually. You know, do you suggest someone who's just starting should start from Polars instead of Pandas because it's faster, or because it seems like Pandas is still like more it's kind of like, I guess, like from my perspective, it's like a little bit different because it's like almost the side of like, I think it depends on adoption, because it's almost like, you know, would you recommend learning Rust over Python because Rust is faster? And it's like, no, right? I mean, especially if you're doing data work, like no, right? Yeah. But it's like so. But Pandas, it seems like, at least in my perception, Pandas is still way more adopted. Like, and
So you know, people say I don't have a horse in this race. Well, I have a horse in both races, right? Like, yes. I mean, I like both technologies, right?
On both sides, I always win.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from like my book sales, content sales, that there's a lot more interest in Pandas, right? I can tell you from like talking to people at PyCon, and for my living, I do corporate training. I go into companies and help them, their teams, level up with Python and like use Pandas and Polars and be more effective as programmers or data scientists or data engineers, right? And so, again, I'd say that like right now, Pandas is like the COBOL or the IBM. It's the safe choice. It works with everything. It might not be the fastest. And so, you know, I think if you're looking to go into like the tabular Python world, I think it is kind of a safe bet just to know some Pandas, because probably you will run up against it at some point.
Yeah.
And another thing I think, you know, this is a common thing that I hear. Obviously I'm biased because of my background, but like, you know, a lot of people like SQL this, SQL this, SQL that. And I'm not saying that SQL doesn't have its place. Like, I'm a committer to SQL Alchemy. I wrote the first backend for MonADB, a columnar database, back in like 2006. So I'm very familiar with databases, but like a lot of people are like, it's a lot easier to learn SQL. Programming is a pain. And my take on it is, yeah, programming is a pain, but SQL is a pain too. And I think, you know, if you are writing SQL queries, you probably have the brain capacity to learn how to do some programming as well. And once you move to Python, then you get 500,000. Actually, there's 600,000 libraries that are available in Python, right? So you get easy access to things like visualization, XGBoost, CatBoost, machine learning libraries. That, can you do that in SQL? Maybe, kind of, sort of, but probably not, right? And so it's a kind of a quick win. So I think, to answer your question, like, I think you should learn some Pandas because you'll probably run up against it in your career. And I think similarly, like if you know some SQL, you can probably learn programming if you put your mind to it. I think if you know Pandas, again, Pandas and Polars have a different API, but at a high level, they're manipulating tabular data, much like SQL is, or other data tools. And so, you know, people who are doing Spark probably run into Pandas code and can kind of understand what's going on. And the same thing with Polars and Pandas.
Definitely. Like, do you know what's so interesting about your recommendation here is that, like, it's similar to like a debate from like how it has parallels to a debate in data engineering from like, it was like 8 years ago when everyone was like, should you use Hive or Spark? right? Because you had Hive, which was like, it was like the old, slow, reliable option, right? And then Spark was like the new shiny kid on the block who was promising to be fast. And even it was so crazy because even other things you were saying there, like, and like if you're doing group by queries, probably use Polars, right? And I'm like, and that was like group by was the big win between Hive and Spark as well, like of like when you were migrating, because it's like Spark was much better at managing the data in memory, and it allowed for it to be so much faster. And so it's like, I don't know though, because it's like, I think
Interesting.
Yeah.
History rhyming.
Right. I think one of the things though here that is like that I think is very important just for people to remember, and it's especially if you're early in your career, just because something's faster doesn't mean it's better. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And people want an answer, right? With the context of a simple question, it really is hard for me to give you a straightforward Polars or Pandas answer, right? And the answer is often one of these, what I call machine learning. An easy answer for me is like an instructor or consultant, but a probably less satisfying answer, unless we go into it a little bit more, is it depends, right? It really depends on business use cases. Do you have existing technology out there? What are you looking to integrate with? What does your team look like? Those are things that can have an influence on this answer. So it's not purely, like you said, technical of like speed or memory usage. There are other things to take into account. I think a lot of times as technology people, we're sort of so focused on the technological aspects of that we might ignore like things that the business would look at as well.
Yeah, I love that. Was something that I learned that hard lesson a little bit in my career with Spark, actually, because like everyone was like, why would you use PySpark? Because it's like Spark is natively written in Scala, so why wouldn't you just use Scala? It's better, faster, it's more amazing. But then it's like it comes back to like, how many people know Scala? Because there's like there's this whole thing of like how many people actually are going to be comfortable writing good Scala code, right? And it's like versus Python. Right. Because it's like with Python, there's the number of Python engineers is just a lot. And the number of Scala engineers is very little, even though if you look at it from just the performance perspective, Scala is the winner.
Yeah. You're going to eke out a little bit of performance, but what's the pain going to be, right? And how many developers or engineers are you going to lose behind the way or limit yourself to because you're like Scala.
Or you have to pay them. Like, I mean, that's what Netflix and Airbnb, they were like only Scala because we want performance. But then it's like, they're like, yeah, but we can do that because we pay our data engineers $500,000 a year. And it's like, that's where they pay the cost, right? Right? Is they pay the cost and just being like, okay, we're just gonna like, because at that scale, it's worth it, right? But most companies scale, it's not worth it, right? And that's and I think that's the other thing that like is, it's such a gnarly thing in technology right now, which is like this thing of like, what's good for Netflix and Facebook is probably not necessarily what's good for your company. Just because it's cutting edge or whatever, quote unquote cutting edge, doesn't like, you want to be, you don't want to just blindly copy like that, because it's like you're gonna suffer. Like the number of companies that have like adopted microservices from Netflix because they're like, oh, it's the way to go, and it's like, we're just gonna blow up our server and have it be 15 little services, and it's like, that sounds like a gigantic pain in the ass, right? And it's like, but like it works for them because they're such a big company. But like, I mean, there's a lot of things like that are crazy, you know?
There is. And I hear, I mean, I could say parallels from my experience is like, you heard big data, right? Spark this, Hadoop that. And so it got feed into people that like, you need to use big data tools, right? And like, I'm actually seeing the opposite, where admittedly, some companies do have big data, but a lot of people, their crown jewels are sitting in Excel, a SQL database, or a CSV file somewhere, right? And certainly you can use big data tools with this, but it's probably a lot easier to just put it on a laptop and use Pandas and Jupyter to do that. And again, I think this is my conspiracy theory, but like based on my experience, like I work with a lot of big companies. I've done like Python training at Netflix, and I've done stuff for NASA and Qualcomm and Intel and Excel or Exxon. So I've worked with a lot of these big companies, and a lot of them, are like, we actually have like a cluster, but we want to know how to do things quick on our laptop, right? And I think probably you've seen stuff similar to this, where it's like there's a lot of advice around like Python and pandas, and this is one of my pet peeves, is like there's a lot of people who are like, here's 20 things about Python, or here's 20 things about pandas, and actually you see these posts that they're like pushing naive or actually bad advice, but they get likes, they get eyeballs, and instead of doing like these naive things, there's the people who are like analyzing their crown jewels, their most important Excel or CSV, right? They're probably making really cool predictive models and doing some cool analysis, but because that is their crown jewels, it's not necessarily sitting around in GitHub for like the AIs to crawl, or for like these people who are pushing these like naive posts to actually learn what the proper way to use these tools are. So there's a lot of like, I would call it straight out bad things. And I see these all the time in like LinkedIn and other social media, where it gets eyeballs, but it's actually not good advice. And there's very little, professional or like taking it to the next level content in a lot of these areas.
It's because it's like social media it's awful. It's one of those things that's like very tricky to like convey the right level of detail, because it's like people like simple. They like simple. They like this over that. They like tribal. And that's what gets clicks and eyeballs, but it's like, it's also wrong. Right. And it's like, it's like a really weird, like,
people are incentivized for eyeballs.
Right. And like, that's where like, if you're like, that's where I think there are a couple creators out there that do it right. Like where you like, and the only way you can do it is with like infographics. That's why I'm investing a lot of money in infographics for the rest of the year, because then it's like, if you have an image that has the right level of detail on it, like I think you can get there. Like you can get there. It's kind of hard to do in a text post because like it gets drowned out, because it's just like, if you're trying to explain this, a kind of like, you know, very intricate detail of like an API or something like that, people are like, boring. But if it's like an infographic that's shiny and colorful, and you can give them a scoop of sugar to make the, you know, information go down, then they will like kind of like it's more digestible that way. And that's definitely one of the things. Like, okay, so one of the things you mentioned here is that you do corporate trainings. I love thinking about how people learn and how people actually like pick up new information. Like, so when you're doing these trainings, like, is there like a sign, like, are there any like early signs when you are like with people that you are like, okay, this student's going to be successful, or this student isn't going to be successful, like in this like corporate training? Because I think that that's like it's because obviously you've probably done quite a few of these, so you probably have like a pretty fine-tuned model on that now, you know, like.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. Like prior to COVID, I was traveling all over the world doing trainings in person. Post-COVID, a lot of companies want their training delivered via Zoom. So there are pros and cons to both of those. You know, for me as an instructor, for the company, and for the recipient of the training, I would say that if I am in an in-person training, it's relatively trivial for me, generally after the first day, if not the first half day, to like rank order everyone. And I've thought about offering that as like a service, or, you know, to companies, but I don't really want to get into like, I'm responsible for like lopping off the bottom 10% culling or whatever. But
Yeah, I get you.
But in person, that like it's actually very interesting, because oftentimes I'll get people in some of my classes where they're like, I really don't have a programming background, but they are not only technically motivated, but are logically thinking and are willing to put in the work. And that's another thing, is like, I think we live in a really interesting time with AI, where, you know, AI can give us a lot of the answers and do a lot of the work for us, but learning still requires work. And if you're chat GPTing your way through a lot of things, you might be shooting yourself in the foot. But it is pretty easy to tell who will be successful and the things that I'm an expert in, right? The Python, data land, predictive modeling. You can see clues and hints at least in my process, because my process is very like lab heavy, right? So oftentimes I will take clients' data, and instead of like teaching pandas with whatever data set about iris flowers, we'll teach it with their data. And so they come into the class as subject matter experts in like their data set. And then together we go through like processes of like, here's Matt's process for exploratory data analysis. Here's best practices or warts or things you need to watch out for, because social media is telling you to do all these things that are actually bad practices. And now the AIs are trained on those bad practices. So the AIs are telling you to do these things as well. So watch out for those. But then, you know, that tends to be a very cool conversation where like you can give an example. Like I did a training for Netflix where we went through visualization, and it was using Netflix data, and at one point they're like, this 5 minutes like totally paid for our class, right? Because of the insights that we got, not just from how to do it, but like you looking at our real data, like gave significant insights that like totally paid for the cost of the class.
Yeah, right? you're like thanks, like you're like we didn't even need you to teach. Just if you would have just ran this pandas query on our data, good enough.
but I mean, to me as an instructor, right, it's kind of the difference between giving you the fish and like teaching you how to fish, right?
Oh yeah, definitely 100%.
Right? And so I think my value comes in like I've been using Python since 2000, so I've got, you know, my Python experience is old enough to drink, and I've been in the trenches for a long time. I worked in data science before data science. Like my first job out of school was doing natural language processing with Python before we had any packages that really did that. So I've been in the trenches doing these sorts of things for many years, and can speak from experience, showing people some of the warts or things to watch out for, but also, you know, helping them find things along the way. On your point of infographics, another book that this is my most recent book, which might be interesting to you or your audience, which is Effective Visualization. And I would say it's a very opinionated take on visualization. I in my bookcase back here, I've got a ton of books about theory of visualization, you know, and people talking about, you know, in the 70s or in the 80s or in the 90s or in the 2000s about what makes a good visualization, right? And I've got some books about like, here's how to use plotting libraries, but I have yet to see a book that said like, here is the techniques and like the theory of visualization, and here's how to apply it, right? A lot of them, they're just like, here's the theory, but we're not going to show you how to apply it. So this book, I believe, is the first book that goes through the theory, and then it's an opinionated take. It uses the Matplotlib library, which integrates well with Polars or Pandas, and lets you make what I would call professional level visualizations. You know, some people might call those like infographics, but I can maybe it's hard to see here, but like what I did was I went through places like New York Times, BBC, Our World in Data, and looked at visualizations that professionals were doing, and came up with a process of what are they doing that's different from you know, your random developer or data scientist or data analyst, and came up with a process that will walk you through basically. I call it the CLEAR methodology. But if you go through that process, it will basically force you to ask yourself questions that would push you to creating a plot similar to what these professionals do. And then I show how to do that with the Matplotlib in Python.
Dude, that's so cool. That's cool. It's like, it's both like okay, how to like actually like the kind of the theory behind infographic, and then that like I mean, so you see Albert here. So Albert is my infographics guy.
Yeah.
This is literally my infographics guy who I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
I've seen his posts, and they're like pretty incredible.
Yeah, he did all of them. So like he orchestrated this whole thing. Like there's all the like because we like he created like 24 infographics for every speaker. And then like we had a lot of them share them. And then like it's also like we have like this automation on LinkedIn. So I can just focus on the live. And then there's automations on LinkedIn that are posting all of the links here to like bring more people in. So that's why we've been able to hold almost 200 people all night. Like, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so crazy. This is like, I'm excited to like look at all the metrics on this because it's like, you know, like probably tens of thousands of hours of people watching these lives has happened. And then they watched me slowly decay. So that's one of the things I want to say for people who have made it this far. If you have made it this far with me, this far, you guys deserve a little bit more of a discount real quick. So you can use code not dead at checkout, and you can get for 55% off dataexpert.io. All right, so there you go. It's nice little little bonus action there. It's a nice little good little thing there. And you got the we got the Metasnake. We got this.
Yeah, I'll give you a coupon for my products
let's
as
do
well.
it. Yeah,
right?
it's
So
like
throw that in there.
store.metasnake. Oh, I like the Metasnake freaking store.metasnake. Yeah, and then you can use code Zach there, and you can get is this where you can get the books?
Yeah, so my digital stuff is available there. Physical stuff is on Amazon. So 20% discount there. If
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude. This is amazing. Like, I mean, well, I was just curious, like a couple other things I wonder about. We still got about 15 minutes here, so like,
sure.
One of the things I'm wondering about is like, so that's a lot of years of Python, like, and it's changed a lot over the years, right? I mean, I feel like, you know, like with Python 3, things finally got better. I feel like it finally got to a point where it got to like it's a little bit more of a respectable kind of language now. I think that's one of the things I'm like, it feels like it definitely, there was a big level up there. And but you know, Guido was saying that like there won't ever be a Python 4, right? And like I was like, interesting. Very interesting. And do you know why that is? I guess like I remember Guido saying that, and I didn't understand why. Like I guess I was like, I just remember hearing that in the ethos. I figured you might know.
Sure. Yeah. So Python 3 came out, and one of the big problems with Python 3 was that it kind of broke backwards compatibility. And when Python 3 came out, so Python right now is like super popular, like number 1 or number 2 language that people are learning or using. So when Python 3 came out, it wasn't necessarily the case. When I started learning Python, we kind of had to hide that we were using Python instead of something like Perl. But yeah, when Python 3 came out, it had breaking changes in it. And one of the big things was like native Unicode support. But there are other things, like a very small thing was like print. Print in Python 2 was a statement. In Python 3, it became a built-in function. And I mean, for me, that's actually kind of not a big deal, because I don't think that print really belongs in production code. But that aside, like a lot of people were freaking out, and they're like, oh, we can't use this, blah, blah, blah. And or it breaks our code. And like, again, for technical people tend to be like, this is faster, it uses less memory, blah, 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 let's do it. But business people don't think that way. Business people are like, we've got a lot of Python code. Why are we going to spend a lot of money rewriting it when it works? That's just a waste of engineering manpower, right? So there was a lot of pushback, and people were relatively upset about that. So the like no Python 4 was basically saying that we are not going to introduce a breaking version of Python again, right?
Yeah.
So when 3
comes out, they don't have to increment it. It can just be like 3.87,000 or whatever. Like, I mean, I bet it will get to a point though. I think Guido, I mean, because he's not the benevolent dictator for life anymore. Didn't he stepped down, right? So it's like,
I mean, they're actually, so I mean, Yeah, they're actually like infighting in the Python world because things like the walrus operator came out, and then he quit Python because like people were so upset about this operator. There's now a steering committee, which is like 5 people who are elected, that kind of rubber stamp like the Python enhancement proposals, these PEPs that are how changes get pushed through the language. However, Guido, he kind of rage quit, and now he's back. He's not on the steering committee, but he is involved with the language, and I would say like he still has. I mean, even though he's not the benevolent dictator for life, he still has a lot of sway, and it is his baby. So
yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope he has some sway. He just like made the whole thing, right? Like, that's amazing. Like, freaking, it's wild to see. Like, I mean, I remember like it's shifted a lot because like when I was in college, Python was like it was not big. It was not that big because I graduated 2014, and it was like back then it was all about like learn Java, like Java. It was like learn Java. Like it was very loud learn Java. It was Java and like C#. And I'm like I'm happy I picked Java. Java was definitely, I feel like, the better choice between the two. But that like then Python just came out of nowhere. It's just like boom, like then it's like now most popular language, and it's like not slowing down, and I don't think it's gonna slow down. It's like because it's just so accessible, right? I mean, it's so
and it is kind of like the native AI language. So having said that, like again, I am cynical because my day job is like teaching people Python. I think, your experience of learning Java, I think there's a lot of professors who probably grudgingly got told by a dean that you need to start teaching Python. So they took their Java slides and sort of like, AI wasn't around back then, but like swapped out the Java code with the Python equivalent. So I do see a lot of people in industry who learned Python in the university, but they didn't really learn, I would say, Python per se. They learned like the common subset of programming functionality to basically understand like programming basics, functions, and classes and that sort of thing. But they're generally not learning how to use Python like the way Guido might use it, or like the way what I would say a professional level Python developer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely like. I mean, because you can write Python code like Java code, 100%, and have it be like this really gnarly object oriented, like where you're using a lot of like new keywords, and you're using a lot of like there's like a lot. It's really like it's not great. It's definitely not the way you're supposed to do it. Like actual like Pythonic code is I feel like I didn't learn that until like really deep. Like I didn't learn like actual real Python code probably till like 2019, 2020. It was like, like maybe 5 years ago. That was when I picked up Scala like before I picked up Python, which was very strange. Like, looking back on that, I'm like, that's a very strange.
That's an odd path, but it probably helped your Python code.
Yeah, it did. Well, because it's like that's essentially like that's what Scala is. Scala is like if Python and Java had a baby. The syntactically, it's very like right in the middle between those two languages, and so it's like, yeah, it's interesting, very interesting how all these languages just like come out of these places, and they all have their own like flavors and opinions and drama, and like it's like its own thing, right? I mean, it's a lot. Like, I mean, like, is there like do you have a place? Like, do you have like a base one, like a book or something like that for like Python specifically? Because that's definitely one of the things that I was thinking, learning Python for data, perfect. That's exactly what we want. So like, yeah, if you guys want to go to this store.metasnake.com and use the Zach coupon, that will get you that way, because there's so many people who ask me, they're like, Zach, like where should I learn Python for your data engineering bootcamp? And I'm like, I don't know, Code Academy. Like, I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't like, a lot of times I don't even like think about like the right resource to like point people to, right? And like, I mean, this is now this is like sinking in my brain, and I'm just gonna be like, go read Matt's book.
Yeah,
like
I need to send you a stack of books, Zach. Apparently,
yeah, awesome. Yeah,
I'll we can once afterwards we'll sync up and I'll send you a stack of
Yeah,
books.
man, that'd be great. It's amazing. So, I mean, this is good. I need to go pass out. I've been doing this for 24 hours straight now. So, thank you so much, Matt, for coming on today. This has been really, really good. I'm really excited. This is the end of the 6th segment. There we go.
Wow.
The last, because we did
Kudos to
6
you.
4-hour segments, and this is the last one. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope y'all have a fantastic night. Remember, code not